You standing up? No, at the time, for yours.
We have some, I don't want to say stragglers, but it's not that easy to find, so we want to just give people a chance to come in and sit down. I'm sure you'll be happy to know that there are already 250 people online, so I guess there are no football games tonight. Yeah, go ahead. We're going to take care of some housekeeping rules, et cetera. So again, turn off those telephones. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. This is for the benefit of the 246 people joining us on Zoom. These are the Zoom instructions. Welcome. If this is your first time joining a CB8 meeting virtually, you will notice that you are currently muted, and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except the committee co-chairs and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentation, the co-chairs, or our chair Valerie Mason, will call on members of the public wishing to speak. This evening, if you are hoping to speak during the public session, you need to sign up online before 6:15 using the same registration form you used to get the Zoom link. If you have already filled out that form and indicated that you wish to speak during the public hearing, there is nothing else you need to do. If you did not indicate earlier that you are hoping to speak during the public hearing, you will need to go online and complete that form. For those of you on Zoom, if you are calling in on the phone, or I should say, after we call on you, you'll press the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen, not wave or thumbs up, those will disappear, and only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down and we will not be able to call on you. If you're calling in on the phone, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute once you get that unmute prompt. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once you've been called on. If you're joining us on Zoom, the chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems and not to ask questions of the chairs of the board. They will not see the chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to find the React menu, Participants menu, or a button that says More, where you will find the Raise Hand feature. If you plan to speak during the meeting, it would help us if you would rename your device on Zoom with your full first and last name, which should be the name you used to sign up for the public hearing in the first place. Finally, when you're raising your hand on Zoom, please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. If you have questions, you may use the chat. I will see it here, and I'm here and happy to help. For those of you who are in the room this evening, let us first thank Rockefeller University for very generously lending us their beautiful auditorium, and you can thank them as well by keeping it nice and clean and cleaning up after yourself after you leave. During the public session, we will have a microphone right there toward the back and right there toward the back, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Again, if you're hoping to speak during that public session, you need to indicate it before 6:15 using the form you used to sign in. If you have any questions, the folks out in the lobby are able to help. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Manhattan Community Board 8, in case you're in the wrong place. This is a regularly scheduled, not a regularly scheduled meeting, but our monthly meeting of the Seniors and Health Services, Social Services Committee. My name is Valerie Mason, and I'm the chair of Manhattan Community Board 8. I'm here with my co-chairs of the committee, Barbara Rudder, who is down here on the dais, or whatever we're calling it, and our other co-chair who's going to man the microphone in the back, Wilma Johnson. Nice to see you, Wilma, and again, my sincere apologies about not having you down on the floor where you belong here with us. A couple of things I just want to say. I'm curious to know, those in the room, whether this is your first community board meeting. If it's your first one, raise your hand. Yeah, well, welcome, welcome. You've been missing out. We're so happy to have you here. We hope you've signed up for our newsletter and that this will not be the last community board meeting you attend. Just a little plug for the community board. Right now, applications are open for joining the community board. So if you are interested beyond just the subject matter of what you're here for tonight, we're more than happy to have new blood come on the board. For those of you who are not familiar, there are 12 community boards in the borough of Manhattan. There are several, there are different ones for different boroughs, but there are 12 here in Manhattan. Each board has 50 members, 50. We meet regularly. This is all volunteer. And we live here just like you. You can either be a resident of the district or have a business here or have some connection to the district to be on the board. I just want to say it's a really tough job, but all of my fellow board members are sitting here in the first couple of rows, so you should be thankful that they're doing this, and we're welcoming you here tonight, and we're very interested in what you have to say on the subject matter. So I just want to give you a couple of rules of the road. In this meeting, if you are agreeing, first of all, we're going to hear a presentation from the Department of Homeless Services and the provider of this proposed shelter, Housing Solutions of New York. Everyone will introduce themselves so you'll remember who they are. I just want to say, as regular members of our community, we have the 19th precinct here this evening, represented by the Deputy Inspector Lazarus, and our favorite community relations police officer, Brian Larkin, in the corner. They come to many of our meetings and are very interested and are very well aware of what's going on in our community. So they're here tonight with us. We also have representative from Councilmember Menon, our new city council speaker. We have representation from that office, and we're happy to have Harry Gale here tonight with us. Thank you, Harry. He's been working closely on the project, and I see the representative of Assemblywoman Seawright, Kevin Wu, in the background. And then I can't really see somebody else's, and from Virginia Maloney's office too. Thank you. So we have some of our electeds here this evening as well. I do want to say that I think I mentioned earlier that there are now 286 people online, plus all the people in the room. Listen closely to the presentation. Many people have signed up. We're going to limit the time that you have to speak to 1 minute each so that we can try to get through all the speakers. If you really have your question answered, don't feel like you have to speak. We'll do something in the room later on just to see, I'm not even sure it's appropriate for or against, but we are definitely noting everyone's comments. We've asked people to submit written testimony if you want, so you don't feel you have to speak this evening. We do read it all and we do submit it all. So we're here tonight to listen. This is a presentation. I do want to tell you that the community board, I would love to tell you otherwise, but we are only advisory. So I've gotten a lot of correspondence over the last 2 weeks telling me what to do. I appreciate that. I could always use a little bit more direction, but I don't have that kind of authority, and no one on the community board does. But we do have the ability to advocate on behalf of the community, and we are listening. And we have communicated many of the questions that have been raised since I announced the shelter. And I think that the people who are on the dais this is not their first rodeo either. So they will be familiar with answering a lot of the questions that you are going to have. I do want to say at the outset, and then we'll go to the presentation. There is a concept in New York City called fair share equity. And it applies to the administration of all social services and health services. And so every district in the city of New York is It's their responsibility to provide some of these services. So we're not being asked to do anything that any other community is not being asked to do. And I will say that I have received correspondence, and a lot of it has been, especially from neighborhood associations in the district, a very positive response to this shelter. I know I heard somebody say, what? Okay, that's a great segue into how I'm going to end this. If you disagree with what you're hearing, I do not want to hear it. I want to see this, okay? If you agree with it, you can raise your hand like this. No applause, no booing. The one thing I will tell you is that this community board requests respect for all speakers. Not only do we request it, we require it. And if you can't be civil, we have plenty of police and security guards here, in addition to myself, and we will ask you, and I will ask you politely, and then if I have to ask you again, we will maintain decorum, because this is for a sharing of ideas. This is not a bullying session. So I know I can expect the best behavior from the Upper East Side. We always have it. We should have it this evening. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jerry Hippolyte from Housing Solutions of New York, and he will start the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Valerie. Thank you to the community board as well as Council Speaker's office here at Housing Solutions of New York, where we are the intersection of human services and housing. We want to say thank you to the community board for this space and time. By the raising of hands, we can tell that this is of a lot of interest as well as concern, and we want to speak to that. We really want to speak to anytime a new shelter is proposed into a neighborhood, what does that come with? What does that actually mean? And how do we hold ourselves accountable as well as a collective community? With that being said, we want to go into introductions and actually start the presentation. The first set of introductions that I want to start with is Housing Solutions of New York. First, we have our CEO, Seth Maraskin, who will be speaking. Followed by that, we also have Dr. Zelex Rivera, who is our Chief Program Officer. We also have our program leadership team, who is also in the building. And we also have our security firm, Elite Investigations. Without any further ado, I want to talk to you about tonight, what tonight is and the goals that we're trying to achieve. You have to love technology. We started introductions. The last introductions that's going to be had is by DHS. DHS is going to speak to context, how we got here, the timeline and the space, as well as give more depth to just the space that we're in right now. Followed by that, HSNY is going to speak to operations, staffing, security, really the day-to-day, like what is our secret sauce to make the programs that we serve actually work and thrive, that this isn't just a thing that we do, but who we are, and you'll see it in our mission statement. And then finally, we'll leave room for Q&A, which is the most important part. Prior to this, we actually gathered a lot of questions, and this presentation is built off of the questions that were asked. And so without any further ado, I'm going to swing it over to DHS.
Thanks, Jerry. I am Jamar Hooks, Deputy Commissioner of Intergov and Legislative Affairs at DSS, and I'm joined tonight by my colleagues, Chris Gonzalez, Chief Strategy Officer, Yuri Sanchez, Assistant Deputy Commissioner of Intergovernmental Legislative Affairs, Daniel Nicholas, Assistant Commissioner at DSS, and Ramik Williams, Program Administrator at DSS. So good evening again. We're here to talk about the First Avenue Shelter, which is a 200 single adult women shelter. The plan is to ramp up slowly, and clients typically move in slowly. We do not immediately move in 200 individuals at once. So in a few weeks, we should be at capacity, but not at the initial opening. This location will be for New Yorkers across the city, but I will note that we try to keep folks connected to their comforts of life, healthcare team, houses of worship, family, etc. So often there are typically folks from the community in the shelter, but we also have to balance that against the capacity needs and where beds are available. Housing Solutions of New York, as you just heard, is the provider. They'll tell you more about their programs and services coming up. We anticipate that the shelter will open April 2026. We initially notified all elected officials and the community board on this site March 7, 2025. So this process is a year in the making. The curfew at the shelter will be 11 p.m. Clients come in after 11 and there's no bed. The provider reaches out to DHS to see what's available and transfer that person for the evening to a shelter where there are beds available. Clients can return to the shelter they are initially placed in the morning when a bed might be available. I'm going to quickly talk through the intake process and how clients are connected to shelter. All single adult women must apply at Franklin Shelter or in the Bronx, or Help Women's Center, which is in Brooklyn. From there, they are assessed and their needs determined, and they're placed in the shelter according to their needs. DHS has substance use shelters, employment shelters, mental health shelters, and general shelters like this one, plus other low barrier portfolio, other shelters in our low barrier portfolio. We do checks at the intake and assessment to ensure that clients are placed appropriately, including those with residency restrictions due to sex offenses. If issues start to manifest while they are in shelter, they can be transferred to a shelter that more appropriately meets their needs. We also work closely with clients to ensure that HSNY is making referrals to community resources for clients with substance use and mental health challenges. So how does this site selected? The city is guided by its fair share policy, which is to say that an equitable distribution of city facilities, including Department of Homeless Service shelters across all communities to avoid oversaturation or overconcentration of shelter. It aims to balance neighborhood needs with citywide responsibilities, guiding site selection to prevent overburdening specific areas. Every community has to do its part, as Valerie said, to ensure that our homeless neighbors have a warm and safe place for themselves and their families. The DHS open-ended RFP process allows qualified vendors, often nonprofits, to submit proposals to for DHS contracts on an ongoing basis without a set closing date. Proposals are reviewed periodically as they are received, rather than waiting for a single deadline, allowing for continuous contract awards to meet urgent needs. So unlike traditional RFPs with strict deadlines, open-ended RFP allow vendors to identify a building and submit a proposal for shelter at any time. Agency evaluates the proposal as they come in, ensuring a continuous pipeline of shelter to ensure that everyone that needs shelter is able to get connected to that resource. Proposals are scored based on technical, financial, and organizational criteria. We assess the merit and feasibility of the proposed service model. We evaluate costs, the budget for reasonableness, though it is only one factor and not the sole factor. And we also review staffing, location, and ability to meet specific needs. Once a proposal is deemed acceptable and approved, a contract is negotiated and approved by the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. Final contract approval requires review by DHS, OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, which is OMB, the Law Department, and the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. Within 60 days of registration, contract rehabilitation must begin, following DOB codes and obtaining necessary permits such as a temporary certificate of occupancy. DOB determines zoning and use rules, not DHS. So HPD issues a change of use letter that gets sent over to DOB. Once the letter has been approved by DOB, FDNY signs off, and then DOB will issue a TCO. All use and zoning are reviewed by DOB, but once it's approved, we can move forward. This building, as it stands, does not have TCO yet, but DOB would not approve a site that is inappropriately zoned. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jerry, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that, DHS. Now we're going to get into programming day to day, and we're going to swing it over to our Chief Executive Officer, Seth Maraskin, who's going to speak to our program, HSNY, and exactly who we are.
First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to come into your house today. HSNY sole mission is to end homelessness. Our job is to make sure that my staff of 535 people ultimately don't have a job anymore. The way that we do that is end the crisis of homeless, of unhoused folks in New York City. And that's it. And that's why we're here. To the point of what DHS said, this has been a year plus in planning in terms of coming to this facility over on the Upper East Side. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it the most effective site that we possibly can. HSNY has been around for 2 decades or so. We've got 35 locations in terms of facilities around New York City. As I said, we have 535 staff members. This is what we do. This is all that we do. In addition to the sites that we have tremendous wraparound services that we provide every single one of our clients, every single one. So this is not just housing folks and putting them someplace in a room or a congregate setting. We have things that food and nutrition program. We have mental health programs. We have job training programs. We have programs that really deal with every aspect, what we call the wraparound social services. Our goal is once they come into shelter, when they leave, we don't want them coming back. Our goal is that nobody comes into shelter that doesn't get these services, and the goal is they don't come back. And that's why we're here. And I think, as New Yorkers, as New Yorkers here, we want to make sure that this population that we have in New York City is taken care of in the best way possible, because they're just like you and me. There's nothing really distinguishing between someone in shelter than someone who's not, because frankly, it could happen to anyone. Anyone. One more time. Anyone. So our job really is to make the situation for people going through unimaginable trauma the best possible. And what we're also going to be doing is making sure that from a community perspective and reaching out to the community as well, that we're doing this together. This is not a one-sided thing. This is something that we're going to be doing together. After Dr. Rivera, who's our Chief Program Officer, discussing actually what the day-to-day operation is going to look like, I'll bring up Dan Quinn, who's the CEO of Elite Investigations, who's going to be the firm who's in charge of security at this particular location. One of the things that we heard, and we heard you, in terms of security, we wanted to make sure that you get to see and hear what actually is going to happen from a program perspective and then from a security perspective. You heard in terms of what DHS said. We're going to do the day-to-day operations. DHS will answer all questions regarding everything that got us here. We can answer things in terms of once we are here. So again, once again, I want to thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to present, allowing us for you can see and meet and talk to us at any particular time. Dr.-elect Rivera will talk about the programming at this location.
All right, good evening to everybody. I can't see past your head. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So just to give context, HSNY again is very known or familiar with this population as well as the work that we do. Currently, this organization, we operate more than 35 shelter facilities, 5 of which happen to already be single adult facilities. And I actually have one of my site directors here with me that runs one of the premier single adult men facilities in the Bronx, as well as I have three other of my site directors in senior leadership here doing a cumulative average of 89 years in social services, just lending you to understand how much we have in our program leadership. And we service more than 3,500 clients daily with more than 535 staff. There we go, okay. So the location will have a capacity of 200 beds for single adult women. The site has 8 floors with 3 dormitory styles per floor. Let me pause there in case anybody wants to see it in their head. So in the 8 floors, there's a first floor for the lobby. There's a second floor, which is where staff will be located. We have 2 levels of access control, which security will also support us with. 2 levels of security and access control. And then from the 3rd to the 7th floor is where clients reside. On those floors, there are 3 dormitories per floor that you're seeing in the video. And then on the 8th floor is the cafeteria/recreation space. We also have a rooftop terrace, or we're turning into a rooftop terrace, so that we can ensure that clients are not loitering outside or not smoking outside in front of businesses. They do have the roof in order to do that. Each dormitory will have 13 to 14 beds and lockers. There are bathrooms on each floor with shower facilities, as you see in the video, and the cafeteria area has cafeteria style as well as table and chairs for those persons who are ADA. So as I said before, we currently operate 4. This will be our 5th single adult location in New York City. At this location, we actually have more leadership here, but 89 years of experience. The 46 is calculated for me and Ms. Chisholm, who has been working on this project since inception. At the site by itself, though, will be 46 staff, which is inclusive but not limited to licensed master social workers, MSWs, case managers, housing specialists, KSACs, and employment specialists. We will have security on site as well as senior residential aides and residential aides. All of our services for social services will go until 8, 9 o'clock, from 9 to 9 in some cases, and on the weekends. And our RA staff is 24/7. Our leadership staff is 24/7. I am 24/7. We also have wraparound support services, like I said, in addition to case management. So clients receive individual attention from their case management as we try to work on getting them into permanent housing or supportive housing. At the site, we will provide all meals. Let me say that again. At the site, we will provide all meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack to all clients every single day. All right, the curfew is 11 o'clock, as DHS stated. If a client refuses to come in or comes in after curfew, as stated earlier, HSNY will contact vacancy control to secure an alternative placement. What does that mean, Dr. X? That means that that person will sit with me inside the building until they get another placement or until a bed is available. They are not turned away to wait in community or go back someplace else. They will sit in the facility with me until they get another placement. And if they then are transferred to another location, HSNY will be assisting with the transport to another location. Clients may leave during the day. Believe it or not, most of them are going to work or going to see their friends and family or applying for work, okay? And so, or vocational trainings or other engagements. The facility name is Restore Hope, so I want to remind us all that HSNY is dedicated to restoring hope in our clients so that they can seek permanency and become valuable assets to community, as well as it is a drug-free and alcohol-free facility. There are house rules within this building. There is a 30-page intake packet when they come to us. As DHS said, there's also an intake process when they are at the intake centers. So we do learn a lot about them when we're taking them in so that we can better assist with them and offer individual living plans for them to be able to succeed, right? Consistent with the DHS policy, there will be no loitering outside. The site has a roof area, as I've already let you guys know. The Goodwill store will be operating in the building. HSNY contact with DHS is for 5 years. HSNY, we always exercise a good neighbor policy. We try to maintain effective communication with our community boards directly from myself in most cases, and a cab will be established within the first 30 days of opening. Is me or you? This is you? It's still me. All right, quick overview of what Restore. I'm sorry, a community advisory board. So we do meet with the community advisory board monthly when we open new sites. So that way we can hear in real time if anything's going on. We also have, which is going to be another slide, there's also a hotline number that you can call. There is a CPO email that you can email. There is also my direct phone number that you can call in case you ever see things that you find to be alarming. So we try to make sure that we are being very responsive. On your screen is a really quick snapshot of what Restore Hope is and what it will be as we continue to work on being good and great neighbors.
With that said, I think one of the biggest ways to capture it, and you can only see it in real time, is what it actually looks like when we incorporate our work and our work meets impact and that impact meets community. As you can see, this is just a little bit of brief history with HSNY, from staff engagement with clients to Easter events. Not Dr. X, but our CEO, Seth Moranskin, had mentioned our FNS, which is our food and nutrition programming, cooking classes, our DOH health fairs, as well as Mother's Day. This is just a small sample size of all the things that we come to the table with, and we ask that you dine with us in that space. With that, I want to go to the next place. Dr. Rivera mentioned it earlier what the hotline number is. This is going to come up a couple of times. One, there's a hotline number. There's also an email. And then our point of contact would be Dr. Zelex Rivera, right? Our shared goals is to have a safe and well-mannered shelter, residents supported towards permanent housing, minimal neighborhood impact. I'll repeat that again, minimal neighborhood impact, transparent communication, and it starts with this conversation going into our CAB meetings, and then a strong CB8 partnership, which, as you can see, is happening live in this moment. With that being said, our success is measured by both resident outcomes as well as community trust, and that's the equity that we're trying to build right now. With that being said, I'm going to give it back over because our CEO was going to bring up our security firm.
Thank you, Jerry. So what I'd like to do now is bring up Dan Quinn, who's CEO of Elite Investigations, and he's going to also bring up the EVP of Operations and the Director of Operations. Our EVP of Operations for Elite, actually, is was a 20-year veteran of NYPD. He was a retired lieutenant. We also have another who's the VP of Operations at Elite. Dan can talk about him. He's a 26-year veteran, a captain retired of NYPD. So again, the facilities are going to match up with the functionality that we have in terms of security, and we want you to hear exactly what's going to happen. So Dan?
Thanks a lot, Seth. Thank you, Seth, and good evening, everybody. So like Seth said, Dan Quinn, CEO for Elite Investigations. Been here since 2019. Prior to that, did 10 years in the Army. I was a U.S. Army Special Forces officer for 10 years and did 3 tours overseas. To Seth's point, both Gary Wexler and Rob Jones, seated right here in front of me, 20 plus years of NYPD experience, still very well connected within that community. And we've leveraged those connections throughout kind of our entire time here and working in security in the city. And finally, Margaret Gonzalez, our Director of Operations, she's handled all of our shelter work now for the last 6 years. A ton of experience as well, and you'll hear from her shortly. Go to the next slide. There we go. Yep, I got it. Gary, you want to give a quick overview of our community operations, and then I'll go into it.
Hello, everybody. My name's Gary Wexler. I'm a retired lieutenant from the New York City Police Department, as well as being the Executive Vice President of Elite Investigations. During my tenure in the New York City Police Department, I'm happy to say I was very, very much involved with the community policing program, which I'm sure many of you have dealt with. The concept behind the community policing program is clearly to partner with people, identify problems, coordinate responses to those problems, and work as a partnership. Elite Investigations has been in business and providing quality security for 40 plus years throughout the whole city. We have extensive, I really mean it, extensive experience in addressing quality of life issues. Just a couple of them that I can mention, and there are several that I'm sure everybody here is aware of. One of the first ones I talk about is transient drug or drug use in public places. That's a very serious issue that we have experience in dealing with, and we will be talking to you a little bit later. Additional issues involving quality of life issues has to do with individuals that might be loitering. How are they loitering? They might be blocking entrances to stores. They might be harassing people for change, for money. Okay? And then, of course, a third one in the bucket clearly would be noise complaints and stuff like that. Well, we at Elite, we've kind of developed a very proactive, responsible program to address some of these issues. And Dan Quinn and Margaret will certainly go into a lot more specifics. One of the first primary things that needs to be done is to assign a qualified, carefully screened security officer. Now, that officer will be in uniform. And when I'm talking through this is obviously on the exterior as well as the interior. That officer has a very, very important role. And the primary role is to know how to report and observe issues that they may encounter. Now, we're very fortunate in this respect because as that officer might identify a problem, we have what I call teeth. Why? Because obviously our primary issue is the residents, who hopefully will be no problem. But if there are issues that they come up, we're going to be able to communicate that with Housing Solutions leadership, okay? And Dr. X clearly brought up a couple of house rules. Well, we're going to document those house rules. We're going to forward it to leadership and coordinate some sort of a response. And by the way, partnerships are important. Okay? And we clearly have and understand the importance of partnering with NYPD and specialized units, and guess what? With you. Okay? In the community policing philosophy, everybody is a resource. Every observation is a resource. Every communication is important. Dr. S pointed that out to you when she was up here. She said 24/7. So we have a really clear partnerships, and we believe in everybody's a stakeholder. In the end, what we have is a solution-based program that's proven, okay? It's proven to work because we form long-term partnerships. I'd like to introduce Dan Quinn, our CEO, and he's going to really get down into the specifics of what I kind of talked about, especially in the training. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. All right, so I'll just go through a few more higher level points on our security program. Margaret will cover down on a few of the additional details for this particular location, and then I'll get into some of the training that we put all of our officers through as well. So as far as how long we've been operating with DHS and in the shelter system, 6 years in New York City. This is the primary thing that Elite does. Most of our customers are shelter focused. We do this in New York, we've been doing it for New York City for 6 years. We've been doing it in San Diego for 8 years. Denver for about 8 years, Chicago for 4 years. We do it all over the country, and this is a majority of what we do. And a lot of it comes down to training and a lot of the things that Gary just spoke through, but the relationships we have, both with the programs that we're working with, local residents, and residents of the locations as well. Again, worked with HSNY for 6 years now. Been a great relationship. Very happy to have Seth and his team introduce us and have us be a part of this meeting because security is a big component of this program. And very happy to be here to support them with this. 24/7, 365. Again, Dr. X said it, Gary said it, we can't say it enough. As far as 24/7, 365 days a year coverage, we have, and I'll cover these next two, 6 officers per shift, 1 supervisor per shift, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In addition to that, we have a dispatch program in Yonkers, manned by 2 people at all times, 24/7, 365. In addition to that, if there is ever any kind of a situation, in any kind of situation at all, it gets escalated to Margaret right away. Margaret will incorporate us as needed, but myself, Gary, Rob, Margaret, everybody on our team is accessible 24/7. Security is a 24/7 job. Most of the time when there's issues that do arise, it's usually when it's most inconvenient, but that's fine. That's what we signed up for. That's what we love about the job, and we will always be there to support our officers and the people 24/7, 365. Can't emphasize that enough. And then, I went through these last two bullets here, but it's 6 officers per shift and then 1 supervisor per shift at all times. Now, that is just what's assigned to this particular location. In addition to that, at Elite Security, we have throughout Manhattan multiple supervisors on call 24/7, 365, and then management as well. So we always have people on the road available if there's any kind of a situation to support the local supervisor and the 6 officers that are on site for this particular location. And we'll get into a little bit more of kind of what each of those officers and supervisors are doing throughout the building. All right. I got it. I figured it out. So again, Elite Security, both Gary and Rob, both been, lieutenant and a captain, 20, 26 years respectively, still very well connected throughout the area. At this location again, and you see the picture of it right there, 2 access controls. I think Dr. X mentioned it earlier as well. First one on the ground floor with the magnetometer, and then as residents move throughout the building, there's a second access point on the 2nd floor. And I will call Margaret to the table now, and she'll go through just a little more in detail, kind of a process for how residents will come in and out of the building, security we provide in the immediate area, and then I'll get back into covering some of the training that we provide our officers after she goes through those details.
How you doing? Okay, so for the most part, the main goal is to kind of keep the displaced individuals from being outside. So initially, everybody will come in through the lobby area. There is a magnetometer which was identified. We would have 2 security officers, one that will be in charge of line control and addressing any loitering that is occurring at the particular moment. The other individual will be assisting with going through everybody's luggage and bags to kind of make sure that any unauthorized items are not allowed inside the facility. The elevators only go up to the 2nd floor from the lower level. So they would go up to the 2nd floor where they would meet 2 more security officers. Those individuals would go through the next stages of the checks, as well as directing the residents over to the, the front desk staff that will assist with, sorting where they would be located inside the building, which room, bed, and everything like that. After that, the key card is held by the officer. The officer will then allow the individual upstairs to the floor that they're residing at, and then they would kind of take their bed from there. We will also have a security officer that is roving all of the dormitory floors. So they will be checking in on each of the rooms. They will be checking in on the the bathrooms, making sure nothing's happening. We will also have the cafeteria area will be manned by a security officer. And then we have someone on the roof, which is the area for congregation for the most part. During that time, there's walkies, there's radio, so everybody will be communicating consistently with anything that's occurring on any of the floors. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much the postings.
Do you want to click next
Yeah.
slide? Just get the arrow.
Okay, all security officers, which is the FO2 officers, they will have 2 years of experience. The supervisors will have an F80 certification, which allows them to, assist with any fire watch coordination. They will assist with training all of the residents and staff on proper evacuation when it comes down to any fire or emergency procedures. Myself, I'm the director of operations. I have over 5 years' experience. There's a total of 136 cameras, 12 of which is from the exterior. They will be constantly watched from the security as well as in-house staff to make sure that anything going on can be addressed immediately. And we have an officer that's on the roof, which I mentioned before. There will be someone there 24 hours.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you again, Margaret. All right, so I'll get into a little more detail on our training. And Margaret mentioned, each of our officers having their FO2 certification, F80 certification. Each of those are specific courses. So our security officers that we hire and that are going to be working at this particular location, they've been through the standard New York State security entrance exam. Then they get their FO2 certification, F80 certification, right? That's additional training and certification that they get just to work in a DHS facility. On top of that, they go through Elite's own training. And that's a full week of training where we go through exactly what their expectations are for that particular site and that particular post that they have. In addition to that, on an annual basis, we do, I believe it's 36 hours of training, about a week's worth of training that we pay for. Every single officer every year is going through a full week's worth of training just to reinforce all the things that come up that we do during our initial training and everything else. So we take training very seriously. Before they're due to work any post, they're trained on that specific post. This is what you're doing at this location. They have very specific post orders and training instructions that they're getting, for each location. A lot of the training that we do is focused around trauma-informed care. What trauma-informed care is, and Seth, I believe you referenced it too, right? This can happen to anyone. We understand that. These people are not here because they want to be. This is literally can happen to anybody. They experience some kind of terrible trauma in their past, and that's the approach that our officers take when they're dealing with all residents, right? They're understanding it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you and how can we help. And that's the approach that we take with our officers, and it just allows us to de-escalate a lot of situations, intervene when they're in, before any crisis comes about. But we continuously reiterate, continuously retrain our officers on a lot of the trauma-informed care because that's, again, it's a majority of what we do with our company. We understand where these people are coming from, and we do everything we can to support both them and the program. Margie, you want to wrap it up with the last few bullet points here on cultural sensitivity and professionalism below?
Okay, so all the officers go through an annual sexual harassment training. They also go through a refresher course on documentation, reporting, and safety protocols. Documentation is a very large portion of the security function. Knowing when and how situations arose previously helps us to prevent it from occurring in the future. And then the annual refresher training, we have 8-hour annual refresher training on the Local Law 124, which goes over all bullet points here, as well as they go through a separate training within Elite that is a refresher to security as a whole. So it would go over report writing, it goes over proper post etiquette, it goes over a bunch of other areas where we just want to make sure that they are aware and supported while they're out there and they know exactly what to do should a situation arise. On top of that, all officers have valid CPR first aid certification. They also have a Narcan training, should they need to use it. They all have a kit with them on post. They take the mandated reporter certification and then the fire guard certification that we had discussed already. Yeah. Let's see.
All right, and this is just more of a visual depiction of what Margaret went through as far as what the site looks like, what security at the site looks like, what we have. And again, you can read through it quickly, but 136 cameras, 12 of those are external, and we constantly have someone monitoring each of those feeds throughout the day, and we're in touch with everyone from Housing Solutions, informing them of kind of what we're seeing, any issues that are arising, working together on solutions. Arrangements with NYPD? Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, so, and Gary, obviously you can speak to it, but we have those arrangements with the NYPD at every location we work with. If there's a situation that, if there's any kind of a situation with the resident, we first work to handle it ourselves with, again, trauma-informed care, verbal de-escalation. If it escalates further than that, we will connect with Housing Solutions and figure out what the way forward is from there. If it's decided at that point that we want to incorporate NYPD, we reach out right away. We have those relationships secured. They will come, we'll explain the situation. Our officers are trained to report exactly what's going on, how to keep things under control until NYPD arrives. At that point, we hand it over to the NYPD and we go from there. But that is not our first call.
with that, as we get ready to come to a close, the second to last thing that I want to present is the contact information. Make sure you take a picture, write it down. This is the contact number 24/7 of the hotline, the email, as well as point of contacts. But really where I want to leave you with is our shared goals. Again, a safe and well-managed shelter, residents that are supported towards permanency, minimal neighborhood impact, transparent communication, and strong CB8 partnership. I say all that to say thank you. Thank you for the time, the space, and opportunity. I know this was a lot, but we put a lot of intentions behind this based off of the questions and feedback that we got from everyone here and who maybe didn't come, for all the people that are online. With that being said, I want to swing it over to Ian so we can open up our Q&A.
Let me do that. So let's have folks. We will begin calling names here in just a moment. I'm going to open this up on here. We're going to start with in-person folks who have registered for the public session today. And once we call your name, we'll call in clumps of names. Please line up at one of the microphones. There's one over there and one over in the back. Again, once we call your name, you can head that way if you are here in person. So we are going to begin with Riva Ross, Alina Bonsell, Michael Smith, Dr. John Weiner, and Verna Lubroth. If any of you are present, you can head up to the microphone to speak there. All right, and I'll call a few other names while those folks are getting up. Martha Zithalis, Gary Wachtel, Carl Elaine Memnon, and Iris Rubin Owner. If you are in the room, head up to a microphone and you can speak for 1 minute. Oh, and Valerie has just one other remark before we get rolling.
You don't have to talk if you signed up.
Yep.
I just want to remind everyone, because we're going to at some point have to cut it off, and we'll have to go to the board, and we're also taking comments from people online. Okay?
All right.
All right, so who's up? If you're going to speak, please say your name and your address. And remember, you have 1 minute. It goes faster than you think.
Good evening. My name is Gary Wachtel, and I'm the president of YRH Owners Corp., a 225-unit co-op on York Avenue between East 63rd and East 64th Streets. When a restaurant on the Upper East Side wants to have tables on the sidewalk, the community is provided almost 3 months' notice with leaflets posted on easily visible locations in the neighborhood and other forms of notice so that residents and businesses in the neighborhood can express their opinion to their elected officials. Similarly, when a new bar or restaurant wants to serve beer, wine, or liquor, the community is provided almost 3 months' notice. And when a street fair is proposed for the neighborhood, the neighborhood gets 3 months' notice to again express their opinion to their elected officials. This expression by the constituents of the elected officials is intended to persuade the elected officials to make them think about the issue from the point of view of the neighborhood residents and businesses. Yet this entire process of intending to create first a halfway house for formerly incarcerated men, which morphed into a men's homeless shelter, and now recently a women's homeless shelter.
Okay, I'm going to have you. All right, obviously, no one is going to listen to the rules, okay? I was very serious when I said, if you are in favor of it, put your hands up, and if you are against it, put your thumbs down. I'm very serious because you're taking time away from the speaker, who I'm being generous to and letting him already go over a minute. So please wrap it up.
Thank you. It's been
Okay, do you want to leave now? Oh, really? No, we have rules here. We have rules for expression. If you're not going to be civil, you'll have to leave.
Let me finish,
And I'm
please.
serious.
I'd like to know why it has been so secretive without public notice. Mr. Hooks said that this was first presented back in March 2025, yet we all just learned about this in January 2026. This shelter is at least as important as a restaurant's tables on a sidewalk or a beer or wine license or a street fair. So why not have at least the same amount of public notice and opportunity for scrutiny? Children walk to school up First Avenue and York Avenue to PS 158. The Browning School is located on East 64th Street at York Avenue. A preschool is scheduled to open on East 63rd Street, just east of 2nd Avenue. The Bentley Hotel on East 62nd Street at York Avenue has housed asylum-seeking families for several years. This neighborhood is already doing its fair share to help our fellow New Yorkers and non-New Yorkers.
Okay, I've let you go beyond.
Just give me one more second, please.
Okay.
It's very tough for businesses in this neighborhood, which is easily identified by multiple closings and vacant retail space on First Avenue between East 59th Street and East 64th Street. I think that before you push to open the shelter in March or April, a study should be done and more information should be disclosed to the public. For instance, since the shelter will be located within 1,000 feet of a school, I've read that no women on probation or on parole for sex offenses will be permitted. There'll be an 11 o'clock curfew and a 24/7 security. Will there be a published written plan detailing how decision makers will know how to determine probation or parole status? Will decision makers know a person's arrest history? Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you. The first thing I want to say to you is I don't know where you got this information regarding restaurants and street fairs, but it is not 3 months. It is more like 3 weeks. And sometimes with street fairs, it's 48 hours. So I appreciate the comparison, but the facts are different. Okay. Secondly, this was never proposed as a halfway house. That was something on a petition that was started by somebody else. So I can't help you with that. I know that there's notification. There are no rules, and HSS can speak to this. There's no notification time limit between the time of a notification and the opening of a shelter. This is a women's shelter now. That was changed 2 weeks ago. So I appreciate what you're saying, but and you're getting the opportunity for input here. You're arguing about time. You're not arguing about timing, but you're talking about timing. And if you have a question, HSS can answer it. If you're talking about SARA restrictions, I can have somebody from HSS tell you what those restrictions are in terms of the sexual abuse restrictions and intake. Does somebody want to answer the question? I mean, it's a fair question. If you want to answer the question, if that's the question, we can answer it. But I can tell you that there are shelters all over the city of New York who are operating with these restrictions in place.
Good evening. So as it relates to SARA compliance, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. As it relates to SARA compliance, if somebody presents that intake and they are a sex offender, they go to designated shelters. So that's how we determine when somebody comes through the front door, who goes where. That's what intake and assessment is for.
I appreciate that, but I'm only talking about two things, which is publication of the rules and disclosure to the neighborhood.
Okay, so are there rules that you can put forward tomorrow?
No, but in terms of disclosure, we disclose. Sorry, in terms of disclosure, we disclosed this information about the site opening in March 2025. So
That's not.
Sorry.
Okay, enough! Enough! Enough!
We sent a notification letter to the community board and to the elected officials informing them that we intend to open a shelter in this community in March 2025. Typically, the community board and the elected officials share that information with the community.
Okay, I'm going to respond to that. Okay, I'm going to respond to that. In March of 2025, this community was notified that a welcome center was going to be opened on 91st Street. And in the same notice, there was a notice about 114 First Avenue. And we were told at that time that that project was indefinitely shelved. The next notification that we got about this shelter was on January 8th. We had one meeting, and I made an announcement at a community board meeting. There has been full 2026. Okay? And when I got the notification in January of 2026, which was a couple of weeks ago, I made the announcement. We scheduled this presentation and hearing as soon as possible. And I will say it again. It's just a notification. There is no requirement in city shelter rules for there to be. There's no way to disapprove this, okay? I don't know what else to tell you, all right? We're here now. We're here to hear what you have to say to make this constructive. If you want to make it an argument about what happened in the past and that you didn't see a flyer or that somebody told you this was a halfway house, we can waste a lot of time. If you want to understand how it's going to work and how to make it the best experience, that's all I can tell you. If you're against it, you're against it. The point of the meeting is for you to find, okay. All right, does everyone want to get up and leave? The point of the meeting is for now you understand what's happening in this building. I hope that it's... Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment, and have a nice evening. And have a nice evening. Don't trip on your way out. Okay. Okay. Free speech, right? Okay. What? That's right. I am. I'm telling you the rules. No, I didn't throw you out. I let you speak over your time, and I asked you to sit down nicely, and I didn't even say anything when you talked out of turn just now, right? Okay. So... do you want to listen? If you want to stay and listen, and if you want to make comments, that's fine. If you want to submit additional questions and additional issues, we're happy to take them. As I said, the representative from the city council is here. DHS is here to listen. Okay? If you're a stakeholder group and you want to be interested in being a part of the community advisory board, we're here to listen. No, you don't want to be a part of it? Okay, then you're making your own decisions. But all I can tell you that last Friday, HSNY did a tour of the neighborhood with one of the presidents of the neighborhood association in the direct community, okay? So you don't want to listen? Okay. All right. Opposition, good night. Opposition noted. So who's the next speaker? If you have a question, I'm very happy to hear it. Please just say your name and where you live.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Robert, 1113 York Ave. Let me start with what this debate is not about. It's not about whether homelessness is real, heartbreaking, or urgent. It is. And it's not about whether people in crisis deserve help. They do. But New York has a pattern. Decisions get made fast, behind closed doors, with limited transparency. Communities get told, not consulted. I come here and speak to you as a parent of 2 young children under 3 years old. And while I had a very long list of stabbings, drug use, violent riots against police, and other incidents that happen seemingly monthly in these facilities in New York, the most heartbreaking story comes from just last week in a tragic incident at a homeless shelter in Long Island City that was put up in a very similar process to this, where a resident beat a 2-year-old. I just learned on the walk over here that that 2-year-old passed away in the last couple days. As the father of a 2-year-old, that is an unimaginable loss. Let me finish with this. Think about the elite security presentation that you just all saw. 136 cameras, 24/7 monitoring, TSA-style check-ins to see if they have drugs and guns. This isn't an issue of if a crisis will happen, it's how often. And you have to ask yourself, will these clients, as the first presenter said, be better served stuffed inside of a 4-floor box, 200 people? Is that fair to them? Or will they be better served in an area with better access to care? I want you to put yourself in the shoes of parents. As someone who has voted Democrat my whole life, it's beyond disheartening to see this type of decision-making pattern seemingly only accelerate under this mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate the question, and the question is for HSS. Is this really the right model for this shelter? That's the question. Because I think you're saying you're not disputing that we have to house the homeless, but you're saying the model is wrong. Isn't that what your question is? Okay, HSS, please answer the question. The question was really, is this model right? Is this the shelter model? This shelter model that you're advocating for here?
So I can answer the question in regards to the programming, and then I can defer to DHS regarding your location questions. In regards to the programming within the entire city, the measures that we are currently taking do not necessarily mean that we know something will happen. We want to be more prepared in case something does happen. Not to mention the cameras are there for both the safety of clients, staff, as well as the people in the community. The model is the actual model in which is followed throughout all of New York City in all shelters. But I'll defer to the location question that you had regarding to DHS.
So I mentioned the open-ended RFP process. So the provider identifies a site, they bring it to DHS. DHS goes through an approval process along with our sister agencies to ensure that it's an appropriate siting of the shelter. We also work closely with the provider to ensure all of the things that they mentioned are being followed and things are appropriately, things are going well with the shelter. We have, like I said, and now I forget the question, sorry.
Answer the question directly about what kind of shelter was at Long Island City and what happened.
I'm not familiar with the type of shelter that was at Long Island City. I'm not familiar about what happened at that particular location, but as you just saw, we have a security apparatus in place to ensure that folks are protected and that folks are safe on the inside and on the outside of shelter. So I'm sure what happened at the shelter in Long Island City. It's the very first time I'm hearing about that. Happy to look into it further and get back to this community board on that.
Okay, who's next?
Okay.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
My name is Alina Bonsell. I live on 82nd and York Avenue. I have 2 children. They walk to school and back from school. They have a school in Midtown and another one also nearby. I don't understand how this could have gotten by our state senator, Liz Krueger, and Council
Okay, Melina, I appreciate the comment, but
my
we all know
question
who
is-
you are.
My question is, there is no transparency. There is no transparency by our state representatives as well as by community boards. And my question actually is in regards to the screening process, because you went really heavily into the, the safety protocol of what's going to be available, but what about the screening process? You know, who is responsible for that? Criminal history, mental health assessments, prior shelter behavior, and repeat incidents at other facilities. You didn't really get into what the screening process is like.
Hey, so as mentioned earlier, clients can apply for shelter at either HWC or Franklin. At that time, they'll meet with case managers, they'll meet with case managers, they'll kind of disclose whatever information they want to share. They may disclose that they have a criminal background or not, substance abuse, mental health, et cetera. At that point, that's when it's determined what type of shelter they will go to. They will go to a shelter that can address those needs. This site is not one of those shelters, so if a client does disclose at intake or assessment that they have certain needs, that's where they're going to go. If they,
How easy is it for a client to disclose something different other than the truth?
so as Dr. Rivera said earlier, when clients arrive at the site, they then fill out another intake packet, and there is case management going on there as well.
How often are you screening for drugs?
When you say screening for drugs, what do you mean?
Well, you said you're screening for weapons every time they come and enter. Are you screening for drugs when they come and enter?
So no, we do not drug test, and that's what,
See,
and that's what access control is
This
for.
is why I'm running for state senate in this November, because
Okay, Alina, I've warned you before. Alina, I've warned you before about this. This is not a forum to promote your candidacy. We are not at the advocating portion. I know what I am. Thank you. Thank you. I'm lit. Okay. Okay. I'm letting you speak out of turn. No, it's not irrelevant. This isn't a place for that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Keep yelling at me. Thank you. That really moves the conversation along. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I am the moderator. We are listening to the concerns, okay? As I said at the beginning, there are a lot of people in this room who are against the shelter, okay? There are also a lot of people who have written in who are in favor of it, okay? So just because you're in this room and you're here doesn't mean that you represent everybody in Community District 8. I'm happy to listen to what you're saying. There are valid concerns being expressed, but if you're going to yell at me, it doesn't help to get them aired. What? Well, what you're saying isn't. I am trying to. Look, I'm not going to. Look. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Who's the next speaker and what's your question? Thank you very much. If you want to sign up and ask a question, please do. Next speaker, please.
To calm down for a second.
Thank you.
Because I want to bring up another issue. My name is Verna Lubroth, and I live in a building between 60th and 61st Street. Ever since congestion pricing came along, and 61st Street is the border between yes and no, the traffic on First Avenue between 60th and 61st Street is unbelievable. Every day, there are these horns blowing all over First Avenue and the cross street because the people coming off the 59th Street Bridge, they have to come down. If they come down to go to First Avenue, they have to go down 60th Street. So you have these people coming in as well. Since Trader Joe's moved into the area, people are coming from all over the east side to shop there. You see a line waiting for the bus. That's 10, 12 people all standing with shopping bags waiting. The area has become totally congested with cars and people, and this would just add to more congestion in the area.
Okay, thank you, Verna. Okay, who's next?
Hi, my name is Iris Rubin. I live at 405 East 63rd Street. I have two things to mention. One is smoking. My building has 154 units in it, and there is a no smoking on the roof terrace in my building. Why did the doctor say they allow smoking on the terrace of this planned housing unit? That's number one. I'm not done.
Okay.
So the proposal to put the the rooftop terrace was to avoid the loitering on the streets?
Fine, they don't have to smoke. They can't smoke in that. You're a block away from a children's playground. You don't think the smoke filters in? If residential apartment buildings ban smoking, what makes your building better than that?
So,
all right, that's number one. I'm not done. I'm not done. Mr. Elite, you're next. All right. I was very impressed with the staff of 6 what I thought were guards for every shift. But I think what's very confusing here is the word officer. You use the word officer. We're used to using that with police officer. But now that the police officers are here, I'm going to say that you are less than 200 feet opposite Home Depot. Home Depot sells knives, they sell drills, they sell hammers, they sell brooms, and if I quote somebody, I will say this: any tool becomes a weapon when it's held correctly. And I don't think that you have any guards with guns, or any security is not security. If it gets out of hand, by the time you call Elite, and by the time you get Elite to call the police department, that person is dead. I just feel that somebody should be an armed guard at the door. Armed guard, I don't mean just a uniformed person. And that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Can I
so-
respond to that before you do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse, okay, can I just ask you a question? Are you aware that there's a women's shelter on Park Avenue between 66th and 67th Street? There are absolutely no police officers there at all. Huh? $80 beds. And it's mental health. And it's mental health. I'm just asking you a question, because there are plenty of shelters that don't have security and don't have police officers. I mean, Deputy Inspector Lazarus can speak to this, but there are plenty of shelters in the city of New York, and there are not police officers on the corner on a regular basis. Wow, I can't answer that, but I think you're really projecting. I mean, there haven't been. I mean, we can get the statistics from 19th Precinct about crimes and the women's shelter on Park Avenue. I don't know if they have it, but go ahead and answer.
I'll answer the question about the armed security versus unarmed security. So we've actually found, and we do armed security throughout the country. We've found that in most situations, especially locations like this, armed security actually escalates situations more than it de-escalates it. This is all about de-escalation. That's everything what we do. It's everything I went through in the presentation. And especially for residents that have been victims of any kind of trauma, if the first response to any situation is a security officer there with an armed weapon in a threatening manner, that's just going to escalate the situation. Let me finish, please. We gave you a minute. Let me finish. That's going to escalate the situation. We are there to de-escalate the situation. And if it becomes a situation where law enforcement needs to be involved, we have the capacity to do so.
Okay, next speaker, please. We have to move on. Thank you. Go ahead. Name and address.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, my name is Bonnie Barrand. I live on 58th between 1st and 2nd. My address is a little bit of a security concern not to release. I just want to say thank you for everybody from City Council and this group being here on a cold night for yourselves. in addition to that, I write federal policy, and I wrote a federal policy that will be implemented that covers homelessness for everyone. It's not announced yet. So we are all on the same side of trying to make sure everybody is taken care of. So we're going to get this done. What we're offended by is the lack of notification, the lack of, in the wrong location, lack of notification and the wrong location. It shouldn't be here. And I'm also offended by the way you've been talking to these great citizens here tonight.
Okay, well, I'm letting you speak, and you didn't sign up.
They care about their community. They care about your safety, their children's safety. We shouldn't be denigrating anyone here.
We're not denigrating anyone.
Yes, you did. You
listen,
offended everybody.
okay.
And you know what? They pay all of our salaries who work for the public good. They're paying
I'm unpaid.
your salary.
I'm unpaid. I'm a volunteer. I'm not paid. Just for the record, I'm not paid. Okay?
You were rude.
I'm not being rude because I'm letting you speak and you didn't even sign up.
I did, but it was too late. But these people deserve an apology from you.
Okay, sure.
Thank
All right,
you.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Can you call it the next thing?
Hi there, my name is Andrew Wolf. I'm a resident of Community Board 8. Generally, the mission of DHS in solving homelessness is something I support, provided it occurs legally. My comments are not intended to question the legitimacy of HSNY or elite investigations, but I have serious concerns about the legality of this project with respect to its zoning and compliance with city building codes and the permitting process. I'm not a zoning or permitting expert, but in looking at the ZOLA summary online, definition of C8 for zoning says the property is zoned for heavy commercial manufacturing and automotive services and expressly prohibits housing. And I'm told that continuous overnight shelter use is categorized as housing. As such, my understanding is that this shelter would require a use change through a URLIP, which has not occurred. Second, regarding the permitting process, I received copies of the developer's plans through a foil of the permits posted on the building, and there is no mention of a shelter, no detail on the plans regarding beds, occupancy, showers, or any of the supporting facilities for a shelter, so I do not understand how the DOB could possibly have inspected any of this work to confirm accuracy, safety, or compliance with a legally approved set of plans.
Okay.
Unless the owner is hiding another set of plans, there's no possible way this could be legal. Last, if this is a legal use, 200 people crammed into this little building doesn't seem anywhere near enough to live healthfully and safely. And for the concern of the residents, I think the community deserves an explanation of how the as-built facility complies with the DHS requirements.
Okay, those are all excellent questions. DHS, do you want to answer them?
Sure. So just echoing what Commissioner Hooks said. So yes, so you're right that this property would require a use change, which comes through what's called a rooming unit letter that HPD submits to DOB, and they approve to be able to use the site as a temporary housing facility. So that has already been approved. This does not trigger ULURP. And I will say that DHS almost never advances with a site when we're reviewing proposals as part of the RFP process that require a zoning change, because that is a whole nother layer that would delay advancing with the project. So to answer his question, that rooming unit letter has been sent from HPD over to DOB. DOB has approved it. Once, I can get you the date, but recently. It was approved. Enough. It was approved. It was approved. And so the next step is for DOB to then review the entire proposal for zoning, for all the necessary requirements, and issue a TCO. And that is what is expected within the next couple of weeks. No. Changes to, once that rooming unit letter was submitted to DOB and it was approved, that is when things can move forward.
ask who purchased the property.
I'm confirming that changes started after. Now, that is actually not what I just said. All right, enough. I answered your question.
I think we would appreciate a written legal analysis proving that all this was done correctly and that it's legal.
Okay, we can make that request. I think it's a fair request. Okay, I appreciate it.
What about the other questions on permitting?
Again, all of that is submitted for review to DOB. We cannot open the site until we get a TCO. It's just like any other building. So once everything is submitted to DOB, they are reviewing right now, and then the TCO will be granted, and then we'll be able to advance with referring clients over to the site.
But where are the approved plans?
I mean, I think that's
It's still required? No, absolutely. I'm not saying anything different. It still requires, just like any other building under construction, still requires a TCO. And so we are here explaining that process, and yes, we are anticipating getting a TCO. If we don't get a TCO, the site doesn't open.
Where are the permits?
I think that's a fair question. Look, I think my interpretation of what he just said is that it's in process and it has not yet been approved. And that's why they're saying March or April, because they're expecting it.
You can't complete a facility without permits. How can you be done with the work and ready to open if you haven't been given permits?
Do you want to?
The answer to that is we have permits to be able to do the work that we're doing.
I did a FOIL request. They're not online. They're not on the record.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we're just going to keep it going. The question is noted. We have asked the question. We can follow it up. All I know is that the process is continuing and it hasn't been done. That doesn't mean, there can't be occupants. If they want to go ahead and spend the money and do alterations to their property, and they just don't have a certificate of occupancy to actually open it. So that's where they are in the process. And what they just said was, if they don't get the C of O, they won't be able to open it. So who's up next?
So I'm going to call 10 more names of people who have signed up. If I call your name, please head to one of the mics at the back or toward the side there. The next batch of people is Carl Elaine Memnon, Eunice Williams, Ayushi, Fei Lee, Gail Triggs, Kim White, Jean Prendergast, Susan and Glenn Turner have signed up together, and Michael Lang. That is our next batch of people.
Well, they're coming up. I'm Barry Grove, and I have a question.
Okay, I hear what your question is, and they're going to get the answer.
So my question is this.
Can you say your name and where you live, please?
Herbert Grove, 425 East 63rd Street.
Thank you.
So my concern, you've talked about security inside the building, but nothing about security outside the building. We talked about it now being a women's shelter, but a lot of guys are going to hang out outside trying to connect with those people. So what are we doing to protect everybody out on the street and the people all day long as we come up and down those avenues? I come home from work very often late at night in the dark. I'm not worried about being on the subway. I'm going to be worried about coming down through those 3 blocks.
As far as the exterior of the building, we cover the 1 block radius right in front of the building. We make sure that there's no loiter.
You haven't explained the 1 block right in front.
That's outside. Look, we are responsible for security for this building.
The 59th Street Bridge performs
we don't
already
secure
a
the 59th
homeless
Street
shelter
Bridge.
underneath. It's going to congregate people. You don't have to be back in until 11 o'clock at night. The people that are inside are going to be outside connecting with other people. And who's patrolling that area?
Yeah, we're not patrolling that area. If you want security officers to patrol the entire area, they won't be able to actually secure the site that we're signed up to secure and take care of the.
Well, you haven't done your job then.
That's. You can ask the next one, but yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I want to answer 2 separate questions. Over here, there was a question regarding who is the developer or the company. Their name is Bayrock Capital, okay? to then second answer this question in regards to the assumption that people will be congregating outside. So the curfew is 11 o'clock. However, they are allowed to stay in the building. So let's be very clear. They do not have to leave the facility. They can stay inside and continue to work with their caseworker. They also can go to work, as I said before, or they can go look for work. So there's not a matter of congregating or people. There's the no visitors policy unless it is somebody like a city agency. And so people will not just come randomly visit at the facility. So I hope I answered the part about congregating. I got it.
We have to stick with the people who, I'm sorry, we're going to have to stick with the people because we're never going to get through the list if we don't stick with the people who are standing up waiting. Go ahead, who's next? Go ahead.
All right. So if you were in that batch of 10 names that I called, go ahead.
Say your name and where you live.
Hello, I'm Ayushi. I live on 62nd in York. I come as a concerned resident and parent. This is the absolute terrible location to open this building because not only are we talking about 2 public schools, there are multiple daycare centers and businesses that cater to children and caregivers all around. There is no plan that you have expressed in your presentation about what happens if these women are loitering around, if they happen to be, endangering these children and caregivers around. You're only giving us plans for what happens inside the building. You're telling us that it didn't happen in Park Avenue. Park Avenue did not have cannabis dispensaries. Park Avenue did not have restaurants that sell alcohol. Park Avenue did not have Home Depot that could provide them with the options and the tools to be endangering the residents of this neighborhood. I would like to hear more about your plans to secure residents of this neighborhood in case a situation occurs outside of your building and your quarters.
So, all right, so just to build upon what the presentation that was made. So yes, so HSNY and the security team are, their domain is the actual facility and out front of the facility. Anywhere beyond that, if it's a resident of the shelter, the residents, as we discussed, have to sign and adhere to good neighbor policies. And that basically outlines what the residents' behavior is to be inside and outside of the facility. If there are concerns about residents, they gave you a series of numbers to call to contact the facility to be able to report your concerns and for them to be able to do anything. For anything that's outside the perimeter, that is, and not a resident of this facility, that's the general block, that's the general public. So one of the things, what we talked about the Community Advisory Board, one of the points of the Community Advisory Board is that there's representatives on that board, such as yourselves, such as elected officials, such as the local PD, to be able to report out what concerns you are seeing in and around the facility. If we are talking about people experiencing street homelessness, that is something that, yes, you can call 311, you can let us know, you can report that to the CAB, but the CAB is specific to this facility. Anybody experiencing homelessness outside, yes, you can contact our street outreach providers. We will go and offer them services. It's exactly what's happening now during this cold snap where we're trying to get people to come inside. It's the same concept.
Sir, this is not a safety plan. You haven't answered my question. What kind of plans do you have in place to enable these residents to believe that their safety concerns will be considered by this team? You have not so far shared the plan that you have in case an incident occurs in this neighborhood.
I can't answer the question. Right now we have a welcome center open on 91st Street. We have a CAB that meets every month with preschools that are on the block, with Dr. X fielding questions and working with the people on that block. I think what was mentioned in the presentation is that there will be a similar CAB that will be for stakeholders, for people to work together as these things unfold. I know that everybody is imagining the worst case scenario, and that's appropriate. That's appropriate because this is a new experience. We understand completely. I hear what you're saying.
Right opposite where I live, It's not a new experience, ma'am. We've experienced it since COVID, and that's why we come with a lot of concern.
Okay.
So you tell me what her question, and I'm sorry, I wasn't coming in here to yell at you.
But you are. Okay. Okay.
Her question has not been answered, and my safety, like.
You're obfuscating and not answering
Okay.
the question.
Okay.
The Bentley is a
Okay.
representation of what happened to this community.
It would be different than the men that sat over there, that if we got the same speech, oh, we're only putting this here for a while. I had to live for
Okay.
a year of having to be, like I said, attacked. If it wasn't for what my doorman.
Okay.
I would have been
Okay.
on the ground.
Well, I don't work for HSS. That's the answer they gave. The people in the community board are listening to these answers for the first time as you are. So we are listening to this for the first time. I appreciate the question. You've heard the answer. We can make an assessment as to whether we think there's a plan or not. But I have to ask, can we have the next person speak? Thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation.
Lisa, I
Yes.
live on 64th Street. I am on the list, but not on these 10 people. But since I have to leave, I would like to ask my question.
Okay. Well, I'll
Thank you.
okay, fine.
Thank you. Based on the conversation that I heard, it seems to me, and I apologize if I sound convoluted, that the building was designated as a commercial residence. In order to make it for living people, there would be a change of status. And after that, there should be all the permits to make this now home livable. Right. I would like the community center to help us get the paperwork that shows that first there was the request for change of status, and then all the permits would be approved and the work would start. Because in my head, thinking that the center is going to open March or April, if all the agreements are not in place, that means that the work started before it should have.
Yeah, well,
and
let me
then
just.
we have a chance of filing it.
Okay, but if you want to, if anybody in the city, these are internal changes that are being made to this building. There are no external changes. There are internal changes. If somebody wants to go ahead and spend money on internal changes in the hopes that they're going to get a C of O, that's the chance that they take, whether it's their own personal residence or whether it's a commercial building. They chose to update whatever it is inside the building, whoever owns
So
it.
we already know that.
Huh?
We already know that.
What? You saw the
That they
pictures.
started the work
You saw the
prior to
pictures.
the authorization.
It's residence ready, but if they don't have the approvals, they can't open it. That's what the gentleman said. I'm not saying anything different.
But
I'm sorry. As Valerie said, HSNY, in conjunction with DSS and DHS, have made significant investments into the building, significant capital improvements. The way that we are right now, we're waiting for a TCO. We can't have a single, please, we can't have a single client come into the building without a TCO. Where we are right now in terms of the process, there's an inspection coming up, and then the TCO gets issued. Everything that you're saying, I hear what you're saying, but that's all been done. It's all been documented. We could not come this far unless HPD and DOB have approved everything along with OMB and DSS and DHS. So where we are right now, we're at the final stage in terms of where we are. If the TCO gets held up for a week, a month, whatever it happens to be, that's the challenge. But where we are in the process with the building and the paperwork and all the conversions, we're as close to a FDN. Tomorrow there's an FDNY inspection, and after that, then there's a TCO. We could easily fail it. But right now, that's where we are.
Okay. I have no idea. That's a question for the Department of Buildings. You would have to call them and ask them. I really don't know the answer. Who's the next speaker?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Michael Lang, 440 East 62nd. I have some questions that you should be able to answer since you haven't been able to answer much. These are pretty straight to the point. Couple of them, I've done background checks my whole life. I'm curious how the communication from DHS in the Bronx and Brooklyn will get to the people up here in our new homeless shelter, how they're going to know if they've been cleared of background checks, how that process works, what software you use to communicate between Elite and DHS as two different parties. A lot of times that stuff does not get communicated. I'd like to know how you guys plan on communicating that. I'd also like to know, a simple question is, what's the salary of the security officers? Are they willing to do what is necessary for my 3-year-old and my 6-month-old? I'd like to know what they're getting paid. And yeah, I want to know how you guys are communicating back and forth. I know that stuff goes bad between third parties. I've been a part of it my whole life. And software you're using. And last question, Dr. X, you said if they weren't registered, they'd be turned away. So that means they are on our streets. How can you answer that one? I'm confused about that one.
That's a good one. I can answer that one. HSNY is purchasing a van, and we have already a fleet of 10 vans. And so when a person is sent to us and they have to go to another location, we are actually transporting them at all hours of the night and day. We are not putting them with Metro cards and putting them back on the trains. We're actually putting them in vehicles. So I can answer that part. Just for continuity, could you ask 4 questions? Can you ask the first one and let them answer and do it that way?
Yeah, the other one was involved with how does Elite and you guys plan on communicating, what software program you're using. If someone is registered in the Bronx or in Brooklyn, how is that being communicated to us here in Manhattan? And how are you guys been able to, how are they going to even get here, 1, but then 2, why here, why placed here, how they communicate that?
So we have a system of record called CARES, and CARES allows providers plus intake and DHS to communicate with one another electronically. And so all of that information about the background, about the initial assessment, about who they are, and other demographics are included in CARES. And CARES...
And Elite has access to that too?
No.
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 We don't do any background check. No.
So how will the security guards at the facility understand the background of our displaced individuals who, 1, probably don't have IDs? How are you going to do a background check? What software does it use for a background check without an ID?
So I can't answer the software question. That's a DHS question, but I can break down the process a bit better. So you asked the question specifically around those 2 intake locations. So those are the only 2 female intakes in New York City. So that is why when a person experiencing homelessness, a single woman experiencing homeless, they have to start at those 2 locations in the Bronx and Brooklyn. And then from there, during that intake, some of them may stay a day or 2, whatever. From that intake, the information is put into CARES. A referral is then made to First Avenue that we receive. We get the background information from the intake center, and then in addition to Elite being at the building, we also have HSNY RAs. And so there's staff, there are social workers, there's caseworkers. So we will be at access point with Elite to make sure that the right person shows up. We start the intake process immediately from the time they get there, obviously unless it's overnight. Then we'll meet with them first thing in the morning, but we do have a very quick window in order to engage the person. At that point, we do another 30-page intake process, which is also inclusive of like biopsychosocial, psych evals, meeting with social workers. So I know another question that had come up in addition to yours was, let's say they didn't disclose something in intake, but now it is disclosed, let's say in the first 24 to 48 hours. Then HSNY will contact DHS to indicate that this person is not appropriate for this building, and then DHS would have to give us a transfer for that person. And again, we would assist with transportation to the next location.
So Dr. X, but confused by that, on if they come in and they fill out the form, they have to disclose it to you. Again, I employed thousands of people from homelessness to working at the arena. How are you going to know if they're disclosing the truth or not? What background checks are you going to use, and what software are you going to use?
So we don't use, I don't know if DHS wants to jump in, there's no additional background screening software.
Besides asking them the question, hey, are you a sexual predator?
Besides asking them the question, yes.
That is unacceptable. That is not a background check.
That is fair. You want to answer? That is fair. I 100% agree with everybody. That is fair. But that is the system within New York City, right? And
so the schools nearby that you say that you can only operate here because you guys have approved, because you're making sure that they're not sexual predators, no sexual assault history, anything like that. But you're only asking them.
No. That is public record. Be clear, as being a registered sex offender is public record, and therefore it's public. So there's a New York State sex offender registry that everybody has access to, and that is done both in intake as well as with us. You asked about like if it was a criminal background check. We do not do that software, but we do check for if they are registered sex offenders.
No.
Based on their ID.
I'm sorry, let me
Go
step
ahead.
in. So,
Yep.
so our care system, yep. So our care system in terms of being on the registry, we have a match. And it will let us know if somebody does show up in intake, and once that information hits, I want to say in about 24 hours, there's a flag that's put on that case. That's how we know where to refer people to for shelter, just if, if that little flag pops up. No, but it would still hit on the feed, though. The feed would still, you could say you're not, but. No, it's communicated to the provider who has access to care. So when they log in and they look up the client that's arrived, they'll see the flag.
What if they don't have ID? They have to have ID.
At some point, they have ID. Yes. But, yes. You can act, when somebody applies for shelter, you can ask them for whatever information they have. They may not have everything at that moment.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate that you don't like the answer. Oh, the last one, salary of your officers?
Our security officers make higher than the prevailing wage with the health and welfare benefit. We provide full dental, medical, vision coverage. Yeah, I will give you the number in a second. I would like to explain. Starts at right around $25 an hour, goes up to about $35 an hour, which is, I'm sorry? $25 an hour? Correct, which is well higher than most security officers in the area. Plus the benefits.
And what does your firm make off this?
That's not relevant at all. No, it's not.
Were you vetted? Was your firm vetted over other firms?
Yes.
Okay, all right, who's up next? All right. We're going to take a couple more in the room, and then we're going to go to some people on Zoom. Go ahead.
So, were you on the list? Go ahead.
Okay.
Excellent.
Go.
Did I call you?
Yeah, okay. How about the people you're calling? Keep going.
Okay, so just the list we have here, in fairness to everyone, we are calling in the order people signed up. So the list we have here now, who have not spoken: Carl Elaine Memnon, Eunice Abrams, Faye Lee, Gail Triggs, Kim White, Jean Prendergast, Susan and Glenn Turner, Marla Mudd, Susan Barr, Alexis Keller, and Susan Siskind. If you have heard your name called, please head up to a microphone, and we'll hear from you for the folks who have signed up.
And then we're going to...
Yes.
Can you talk a little louder?
Can we, is the mic turned on? Okay.
Kickback schemes, being the CEO previously, not this one, sorry, in prison for taking money and bribes. So,
Go for it again. This is a corruption question. Go ahead. No, that's fine.
it's not working. Try here. This one. Try over here.
The tech is coming, so while we're figuring that out, apologies to the speaker. You can stay up there if you want. We're not forgetting your question. Let's go to the Zoom.
There's one right here.
Let's go to the Zoom.
Does this work?
It does. There we go. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So my question, in 2024, the New York City Department of Investigation and the comptroller documented 6 systematic failures in DHS shelter oversight, including weak monitoring, poor interagency coordination, and inadequate safety controls. Given that record, why was Elite selected as the security provider despite its involvement in a 2014 court case concerning dispute statements to regulators and investigators related to security operations or professional conduct? And I think it is fair, in the spirit of transparency, for HSNY and Elite to tell us how much are they making from the city off of this contract, because you guys are definitely making a lot of money and you're not keeping us safe.
Could you do me a favor? I heard you say 2014, specifically regarding...
Elite, I think everyone can Google it.
Could you be a little bit more specific on that allegation, please?
I would like to know how Elite was vetted and what other contractors were reviewed and how they were chosen.
Okay, that's a fair question. You want to answer that first?
So per DSS and DHS policy, we go through at least three, sometimes 4. We go through 3 vendors, and they're scored and they're judged based upon not only the services they provide, not only the experience that they have, not only what the cost actually is, but what they're able to do. And Elite was chosen.
Okay, who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
Hi, my name is Alexis Keller. I live at 418 East 78th Street. I actually wanted to speak in favor of the shelter today, which I didn't expect to be such a controversial opinion. I want to thank you for coming today and putting us all together in the room. There's been a lot of comments about, or bad behavior in the room tonight, about, oh, you'll have to sign a pledge to be a good neighbor. I don't see a lot of good neighbors in the room tonight. You've talked over people. This woman is a volunteer. We should be here to listen and learn. I'm concerned about the people that are putting this together. However, I'm not concerned about homeless people in our neighborhood. I feel so bad hearing about the person that killed a baby a few weeks ago. That's awful. Let's not forget someone died on our streets 2 weeks ago, like 3 blocks from here. That's my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, sorry, thank you for coming tonight. Who's up?
We're just going from the list.
Yeah,
of names.
can you just move closer to the microphone so this way we can go from person to person?
Who else is here? My name is Marla. I live at 440 East 62nd Street. I do apologize for my outburst earlier.
Thank you.
But I think you can tell that my safety is very much in concern. So do you really think 3 questions, and I'll make it quick. Do you really think it's necessary to put women across the street from a dispensary when you're talking about drugs? That's number 1. Drug dispensary, thank you.
Just roll off your question, sorry. It's Margot, right?
I also want to know if the city bought the building or is it leasing it? And if it's leasing, how long is the lease? Also, how long are the women going to be in the shelter?
Excellent question.
And, sorry, I'm trying to read my own notes. I think that's it. It's more the safety, and I think a lot of people here, that's their concern, because it is mine, and the nice policeman that's running around, I will have a conversation with him tomorrow, because it's not fair. I come home at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I don't want to be followed home again. I don't.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you for your comments. Does anybody want to answer questions? How long are the people going to be in the shelter? How long is the building? Yeah.
So the average length of stay is between 9 and 12 months. And the reason it takes so long is because folks have to find an apartment. We connect them to what's called a city FEPS voucher or another type of voucher. They then have the responsibility of going out with the help of a housing specialist to find an apartment. And sometimes, as you know, we have a 1.4% vacancy rate. That could take quite some time. They have all the assistance that they need, but the vacancy rate sometimes prevent them from quickly locating an apartment. And I just want to say that many of the folks have fallen on hard times. They have come to shelter to get support, and they are not, they're going to work in the morning and coming home. They're not there to commit crimes. They're not going into Home Depot to purchase things to harm their neighbors. So I just wanted to put that out there, that these are folks that have fallen on hard times, trying to get back on their feet, and we do not believe that they're a risk to the community.
I can't answer that.
But there's a dispensary across there. You don't think they're going to be enticed to go over there? It's one of the biggest ones around. We got 4 dispensaries, and that's the biggest.
We do not allow any sort of substances in our shelter, but
I'm talking about outside. They can go right across the
that's correct, and they have free will, and they can go across the street to purchase. We have conversations with them, right? We tell them what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, but they can purchase marijuana, alcohol if they choose. We also work with them to set up savings accounts to ensure that they are working towards moving to permanency. But there is, if they're going to purchase marijuana, if they're going to purchase alcohol, unfortunately, that's what they're going to do. But we work to make sure that, that they are connected to services that they need, that they're connected to treatment if they need it. All of those things are happening in shelter or through partners in the neighborhood. So yeah, I hear your concern, but that's the reality, is that there are dispensaries all over the city. Marijuana is legal, and folks will use it.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, hi. My name is Jack. I live at 401 East 60th Street, the building right across the street from the proposed shelter with the nearest public seating area. I have a 2-year-old daughter who's often there. I appreciate HHS and Elite being here to answer questions. I think we can all agree, you guys are committed to opening the shelter in your fashion, on your timeline, and while we appreciate the opportunity to make our voices heard, it's very clear that you're not going to change your plan. So I will just say, I think the rationale that you can just move into a community with this type of potential impact and throw your hands up and say, well, we're only responsible for building security, be damned what happens in the vicinity, is ridiculous. And you guys as parents should understand that. But my question is for Valerie and Harry. You guys are our representatives. You are our closest voices to those who could actually do something. So for example, you just heard my good friend Andrew, his question about the legal process in which this was done, which I think which you agreed, Valerie, was a great point. How are you going to get us comfortable, Valerie and Harry, that you're going to do whatever you can to follow up on that and get back to the community? Because again, this isn't about a question of whether it's right to provide shelter for the homeless or not. This is about what I think, really is potentially corporate greed and secrecy and the correct due process with how this was done. And I think Mayor Mamdani, of all people, where he's obviously in favor of housing for the homeless, I don't know how in favor he would be for how this was done and how deceptive it's been and how the community is feeling about this.
Great question. Excellent question. So, the only way to make sure that there's a legal process is full review. So thankfully, City Council has a full land use team, and Councilmember Menon has more access to that than an average council member, as she's now the Speaker of City Council. So we're able to have the full land use team review this application for any type of delays or ways to get around procedure. So if there has been any behavior that is not allowed in these procedures, then City Council will hopefully find it. They're very talented, and they would, of course, notify the Speaker, and we would take that information, and of course it would be made public if any of this was done in an illicit manner.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, sorry. He addressed me as Harry, but I'm Harry Gale. I'm from Speaker Menon's office. I'm her district office chief of staff. And again, we do have a whole land use division to review applications such as these or plans such as these. So although it's not a ULURP and it's just something that's happening, we could still make sure that it's happening with all of the legalities that it needs to. So thank you, guys.
Just real quick, wanted to follow up on the comment regarding security in and around the area, not just the immediate location. I forget your name, who just asked that question? Sorry? Jack, real quick, My mother works across the street at Sloan Memorial Kettering. She walks home a mile and a half right through this area every single day, or after every single shift that she has. I fully understand and appreciate the need for security in the area. I did not mean to come across as like I only care about security in this location. We are only contracted to provide security at this location. So it's not be damned anyone else, but when she gets off her shift at 8:30 at night, she walks right through this area. I absolutely want it to be secure and want to make sure that my mother has security through that area she goes through. So it's just we're not especially with 6 people, we're not contracted to service the entire area, 24/7 patrolling and all that. For sure, and that's why we're liaising with local NYPD and everything else, and obviously we will communicate anything that we're seeing in and around the area with them so that there's a full understanding.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Deputy Inspector Noreen Lazarus, the commanding officer of the 19th Precinct. Thank you. It's a great precinct. I'm here today. I'm listening to your concerns. As a public safety representative here in the 19th Precinct, they are my concerns as well. I've heard concerns about your children, your 2-year-old, your mothers, your family, and I take those concerns seriously. So as this unfolds, know that your public safety concerns will be addressed by the 19th Precinct. We have a community council meeting every month, the second Tuesday of every month, and I urge you to come and tell us what the issues that you are experiencing. And so that is a way. So my world as the commanding officer, I have about 150 officers that are underneath me. My deployment is in response to the community's concerns. I understand those concerns through meetings, through 311 calls, through 911 calls, and through the relationships with the community partners. I take that information, and that's how I deploy my officers. So if we have a safety concern, a safety issue, crime, in this area, as a result of this shelter, I will be addressing that. I will be. How will that be addressed? Presence by officers, right? So when I take crime, when I take public safety, when I take conditions, what I do, take the information, analyze it, determine the location, the times that it is occurring, and I deploy officers. Omnipresence. Whether those officers are on the street corner, in a car with turret lights on, or whether it's better used, they're walking the block. That's one. That's there for you, so you see the presence and to give you a sense of safety and security. So that's the first step. Then the second step is I look at my crime numbers. Has there been an increase in crime? Do I see anything, an uptick in maybe vehicle thefts, right? Thefts from vehicles, package theft deliveries, certain crimes that may be associated with, I'm going to say low-level type crimes. Do I see an increase in that? And if I do, then I address it. We try and determine who's responsible. Are they, and they may or may not be coming from the shelter. I don't know. We have to determine that. So in addition to the omnipresence, then I look to see if there's any crime impact. A third way that we get involved is response to the location. If we are called, and we might be, but generally in the other shelters within the 19th Precinct, we have not had violent episodes where we have been called to violent crime, okay? So what I'm looking for, and again, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict it. I can't predict what's going to happen when the shelter opens or what the street conditions will be like. But what I want to do is assure you that we will be there to address them. I'll be there to hear them, and I'll be there to deploy my officers to address them. I want you to walk away feeling assured by that. And you're all welcome to come to our community council meeting tomorrow. And again, you can raise these as well. Public safety, that's my job. I live it 24/7. So understand that I take this seriously. I take your safety seriously. I take your concerns seriously. And I can't tell you exactly right now how they're going to be addressed because they haven't happened yet. They haven't. But I'm here for that, okay? Oh, sure. 19th Precinct, we're located on 67th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. Has anybody here ever come to our community council meeting? 7 p.m. 7 p.m. 67th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. We're the big police building right next to the fire department. Please come. Please come. This is an opportunity.
Question.
You know, you talk to me about public safety. We could talk on the side. Okay? You're my community. Yes, sir. Thank you.
There's a lack of extension of security offered by them. There's a reactive process offered by you. We're in the gap. We're literally across the street. So what can be done by someone so that people, begging to remove that? For us, it's literally across the street. People are going to be coming onto our property, hanging out, that facility. I appreciate that what's being done, but it's like people are not going to want to be in there. They're going to be outside. So what is going to be done?
Sure, and sir, that's yes, that's serious. And I take that, and that's why I have 150 officers. They're there to make you feel safe. And like I said, I feel it starts with the omnipresence, right? I feel it starts with people seeing officers there present at the location where they feel that there is a concern.
Thank you.
Sure. I just said omnipresence, increased patrols is where we start. That's where we start. This facility is on my radar, absolutely, and it will get increased patrols. Yes, I will tell you that right now.
Thank you. I just want to say that, we've been working with the 19th Precinct on this. This is not the first that, they're hearing about this from us anyway. I just want 2 questions I want to answer. First, I've just been talking to HSNY. 78% of the women who will be, pretty much 78% of the women who will be at the shelter will have jobs that they will be going to every day. That's 78%. Okay. Secondly, somebody asked about the lease. I believe it is a 30-year lease. That's not unusual in a commercial building, but the contract with the city is 5 and 4 or 4 and 5?
5 and 4. And with the lease, if there's some reason that there's no longer a contract with the city, the lease terminates.
Okay. 5 and 4.
What does that mean?
And then somebody asked me about the land use. There's one thing about this community board. We are extremely interested in zoning, okay? Zoning is the backbone of the community board. It's the original reason that community boards were put in place. We have been looking at the zoning, okay? We've actually hired our own zoning consultant to look at the zoning. As of today, everything that they've done seems to be in order. That doesn't mean that there's not, they have already admitted that the process is still in place, but it's still going on rather. But we are looking at the zoning, we have been. And so far, everything that according to our expert, everything that they had to file, they have filed, and they have received the approvals about the conversion from an 8 use to a 5 use. For those of you who understand what that means. Okay, can we just keep going? Because we do want to hear the questions, and we're trying to be helpful. So who's up next?
Did we call your name?
No, but you have a lot of people who have been speaking out of turn, and you have a lot of people you've called who don't show up.
Okay,
and
well,
so
Can you tell me your name?
Yes, my name is Stefan Lautner. I live on 93rd Street and 2nd Avenue, not far from the existing 91st
Okay.
Street shelter.
Go ahead.
I'm raising 2 daughters in the community.
Okay.
I want to speak clearly in support, actually, of the project, but actually in its original form as a men's shelter. Because the decisions here need to be made based on need and not fear. That is clearly present in this room. It was changed unilaterally by Speaker Menon without discussion or further consultation. For every 2 women who need shelter in New York City, there are roughly 5 men who are equally in need. As you've already mentioned, there's already a shelter for women at 60th and Park Avenue. Turning this site into a women's shelter doesn't reduce homelessness. It leaves a large population without desperately needed support. There's a stigma around homeless men and homeless people in general that isn't based on evidence. The vast majority are not offenders, and the shelters are staffed, supervised, and regulated, as we've heard tonight. In fact, shelters improve public safety by giving people stability instead of leaving them in the sidewalks, or worse, in cars, hospitals, or jails. And let's be honest, let's call a spade a spade. This project has faced opposition in every single form that we've had here tonight. First as a men's shelter, and now as a women's shelter, which shows that this is not at all about safety. It's about wanting a shelter not to be here at all. It's about, let's call it, NIMBYism. Fair share.
Please,
now let's boo.
please let
let's
him finish.
Cancel. Okay.
Please.
Fair share. I live near one.
Okay, please let the
Fair
gentleman
share
finish.
means every neighborhood
Let
does.
the gentleman finish.
It's okay. I expected this. Fair share means every neighborhood has to do its part. If we believe women need safety and dignity, then the men deserve the same. And this neighborhood can meet a real human need without compromising safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, who's next?
Hello, my name is Christina. I live at 1113 York, across the street from the proposed shelter. I have 2 questions. I'm not sure if this should be directed to you,
Just
Valerie.
let him roll. Just let him roll.
Can you, given the district, given the city and the district's need for school seats and affordable housing, can you explain whether those uses were explored at any given point with your community board for the site before moving forward with or being alerted of the 200-person shelter?
Okay, I can tell you that it's a completely different process. I mean, this is HSS, so the needs of the community vis-a-vis school seats are a complete and separate process from meeting the needs of the city in terms of, homeless shelters and other social services. So the answer is no, we didn't know that there was a site that might be possible for a school and then nobody comes to us and asks, hey, Community Board 8, we've got, 8 empty floors. What would you like to have? A school, a pool, or a homeless shelter? I wish it did work that way, but it does not. So that was a site identified by Homeless Services. I don't know if you can speak to the process, but I think it's pretty much an RFP, or people come forward and say, hey, we've got this site, we're willing to use it as a homeless shelter. Are you interested? And that's how it works from there. That's my understanding, and people are shaking their heads, so.
Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
My second question, I think, is for you, Commanding Officer. I apologize if I write your name. But was the precinct consulted prior to this decision being finalized? And if so, at what stage of the process?
Hi. When I've been assigned here for approximately 5 months. When I sat down with Community Board 8, we sat down about a month ago and we discussed the shelter.
So there was no mention of this prior to that month or the last 5 months or even within the last year?
I didn't get a notification as the commanding officer. My assignment began in September.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's try to move it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So to be clear for everybody, this is a general population shelter, and so in regards to a person who is experiencing severe mental illness, they will not be assigned to us. However, if there are people who have medications, we are currently working on a linkage agreement with another provider, which will provide on-site nurses, similarly to another facility we have not too far.
Okay, can we go to Zoom now?
Yes.
We're going to go to Zoom for a couple of questions because people have been patiently watching, and so we can take some questions from Zoom. Go ahead, tell them the process.
I'm going to speak to those of you who are on Zoom now. I am going to lower everyone's hand on Zoom, and when we call your name, please raise your hand. We will unmute you in order, but we will be calling the names of people who have signed up to speak on Zoom. So, with that, Fei Li, Yanji Chen, Alexander Ross, Susan Natal, Lily Wang, Carmelo Mazzaferro, and Elaine Walsh. You're going to start us off on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand on Zoom with the raise hand button, and you will receive a prompt to unmute. And our first speaker of the evening is going to be Elaine Walsh.
Elaine?
Good evening. Hi. Interesting. I have a couple of questions, and I hope I can talk quickly. One has to do with the building itself and the issues on zoning, and the other has to do with the population that will be served. Why don't I start with the population to be served? My understanding is that the women will be coming having first been screened by Franklin Street, Bronx, or Brooklyn intake shelters. How do those women get there? Okay. And then what is the process? You've just said that you don't have a contract with a mental health or a nursing facility. Yet, for women in the shelters, the majority have mental health problems. I know you said there's a high percentage that are working, but that doesn't mean that they don't have serious mentally ill issues. So I'd like to have that addressed as one of the pieces in relation to the women who will be coming.
In regards to getting to the intake center, they would get there independently. So whether that's somebody dropping them off or train or bus, getting to the centers, and then coming from the centers to us, DHS most likely transports them to us. In regards to women who may have a mental health diagnosis and or substance abuse, we do have, again, licensed master social workers on site. We have social workers on site. We have 2 CASACs on site. And we are going to work on that contract before opening to make sure we have that partnership to have nurses on site similar to the other facilities. I hope I answered your question. Answered your question.
To a point. But how does somebody who's maybe living in the neighborhood know to go to Brooklyn or the Bronx or Franklin Street to go through the intake process? What is your process of informing the public of how they can get into a shelter?
So HSNY does not have a direct process on how to assist with the referral. In the very rare case, if somebody was to knock at the door or find this location, which by the way is not public knowledge for them to come to, we would then assist with the referral process to the intake center and they would get adequate placement.
So in other words, a lot of women are not aware of what the resources are that can help them. And
I can't speak to that.
I'm going to ask then for the New York City Department of Homeless Services to look at what is their communication system to inform people. How would I know where to go to get shelter if I needed it? How do people know this? I don't see any ads. I don't see anything.
So that's a good question. So there's a variety of outreach that DSS and DHS does to try to connect with folks that are experiencing homelessness. I want to remind folks that 97% of our homeless population is actually housed. And so these are folks that are either coming to us through our different, website portals, through 311, through access, through the different, communication receptacles that the city has. We also work with a variety of community-based organizations to make sure that, folks that are potentially falling on hard times understand what their resources are. If you are experiencing street homelessness, we have contracted outreach providers that go out into the street and offer services to folks to try to get people to come inside. Again, I remind what's happening right now. This is unprecedented weather. There is an enhanced 24-hour code blue, which means our outreach workers are going out and connecting with street homeless folks every 2 hours to make sure they come inside. But if we also work with our elected officials, our community boards, if there are people experiencing homelessness or are on the verge of homelessness, they can connect to us through 311 or connect to us through to the agency directly.
Thank you. My response is, in the 25 years, and I've done a lot of work in the homeless area, there's been no change to really set up a linkage for people to get help. If you want to call 311, by the time they investigate it, it's over. So I'm not going to belittle that. What I want to go to now is, and it came up with the zoning, and I've had the same issue. First, somebody mentioned that Bay Rock Capital is involved in the building. Would they please explain, is Bay Rock the construction company, or are they the investors for the building and own it? Second, on the TCO, that's a 90-day permit. So what are they coming in to look at? And you'll have 90 days. When would you be applying for the C of O? Because you need a C of O. Because what happens if in 90 days you don't correct the TCO issues? Then the women all have to leave?
Okay, Elaine, thank you. I think they've got it. Let them try and answer. Okay, thanks.
So with regard to the Bay Rock Capital, I can't tell you how their infrastructure works. They're the landlord, the builder, and the developer of the property. That's the best I can tell you. Regarding the TCO, once the TCO is issued, an application will be made by the landlord to convert into a CO.
Okay, that's it for Elaine.
All right.
Next.
So next up, we have Susan. Susan, you should have a prompt to unmute. Go ahead, please.
Hi there, and I'm trying to start my video, which is here. Hi there, my name is Susan Natali, and I live at 405 East 63rd Street. I've lived here since 1979, and I've seen the changes in our neighborhood reflected in the city, and things are up and down or up and down. Just a couple of comments. I feel there's a huge disconnect between something that's been in the works since approximately a year ago, and yet we've only found out as a neighborhood in just a few weeks. And I just find that disingenuous. I believe that we are a compassionate society, and we should make sure that we address the homelessness, especially in these difficult times. But one of the other things that concern me, we have a lot in place about security and a lot of addressing all the concerns, but none of them really take into impact that changes the face of our community. Just that now I'm going to see guards patrolling my neighborhood suddenly, that gives a different message. And I said, in a way, I was concerned about that change, and I was told that and there's no point in naming names as to who told me from the community aid office. I was appreciative of their information.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to want this security. Oh, well, that kind of scared me a little bit. I see there's no addressing of the congestion in the neighborhood, which has been increased significantly with congestion pricing, where all the cars are dumped to our neighborhood. I'm glad there'll be a van. They won't be able to go anywhere. It's getting more and more difficult to cross.
I appreciate the comments on congestion pricing.
200 additional people These are dangerous corners, even by transportation alternatives. Not one of my favorite.
Okay,
alternatives.
I appreciate the comments, and I urge you to come to our Transportation Committee meeting to talk more about the lack of the effectiveness of congestion pricing. We got to move on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So next up will be Alexander Ross. Alexander, you'll have a prompt to unmute in a moment, and then we'll go to Jessica Kornfeld, Melinda Greenblatt, Sarah Nolan, Jane Lindberg, and Jessica Jessica will come to in a minute. So if you are one of those folks who just had your name called, please raise your hand on Zoom, and I'm sorry that if your name doesn't match one of those names, your hand is going to be lowered. All right, Alexander, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. I live at the corner of 62nd and York. My question is around the fact that starting with COVID, we had a Doe Fund kind of step-down program in the Bentley Hotel across the street, and that kind of went back and forth a couple of times with different services for members of the community who needed it. Now it's being used as a migrant facility. So why is it that these 2 square blocks of our neighborhood keep getting chosen for this?
Harry, I don't know if you can answer that question. The question is, we have the Bentley, now we have this shelter. Why does this stretch keep getting picked for these projects? I'm not sure that that's accurate, but that's the question.
I'm not sure that I'm the best person to speak on this. As you know, our office had nothing to do with identifying this location as a homeless shelter. The one thing that I could just add from what I do know is that the Bentley is not, there's really a DHS question, and they could say better than me that the Bentley is not operated by DHS to the best of my knowledge, and would be a different entity. Again, our office had nothing to do with the selection of this site.
Yeah, I don't even, all I can tell you, wait, Elizabeth, 1 second, but it's a completely different process. I just have to say, I don't think anybody notified us at all about the Bentley being used as an immigration facility. No one notified us at all. I think if you haven't been involved in city government, there's not a lot of interagency communication, and that's what I can say about that. But Elizabeth, you want to add something?
Yes, I would. One of the reasons, I'm not saying that this is the reason,
But just give her the microphone.
the Bentley Hotel and this block are
People on Zoom can't hear what's going on.
Yeah, give her they can't hear her.
Elizabeth, could you come up to this mic? I'm sorry. Could we get a little more volume on the Zoom speakers?
Go ahead.
I'm Elizabeth Rose. I'm a member of Community Board 8. Like you, I am like Valerie, I am a volunteer. I am a resident of the East 60s for the past 32 years. One of the reasons, and I'm not saying this is the only reason, but one of the reasons this particular site and the Bentley Hotel are able to be proposed as a location for a shelter is that they are among about a dozen portions of blocks on the Upper East Side that continue to be zoned solely for manufacturing or commercial use and do not allow for permanent residential use. This community board has done a particularly in-depth effort to identify those locations that do not allow for permanent residential use in the midst of a very dense residential neighborhood. We have sent recommendations to the Department of City Planning to change the zoning for these blocks to allow for permanent residential use. That is something that over a process with the city, the community board believes is of value to the community to allow for residential use in all parts of the Upper East Side. That said, clearly shelter use is an important public service. We do, as a community, we do need to serve our fair share, and street homelessness is a rising, daily visible issue in this community, and we need to help be part of the solution.
But
Would
that is,
community
yeah.
board members be
Yeah,
given
yeah,
time to
yeah,
ask
yeah, yeah,
questions?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We just, again, I think that answers your question. That's one of the reasons that this area can be used for these uses, but not for lack of trying. All right, anybody else on Zoom?
Yes, next we have Jane Lindberg. Jane, you have a prompt now to unmute.
Thank you very much. I'm a 42-year resident of the Upper East Side, East 88th Street, between 2nd and 1st. I have listened very carefully to the presentation, and in my opinion, these services and protocols are 100% on point. They are proven effective ways of mitigating some of the horrors of homelessness and to help people who, for no fault of their own, find themselves in this position to be able to achieve a home that they can live in, as well as a job and everything else that will help them come back to our community. I find it remarkable that so many assume that women, 78% of whom have a job, are waiting to go to Home Depot, buy a knife, and start killing people. This is disturbing and it's a little disheartening. I think that when we have had the opportunity to think about this more carefully, we will understand that we probably walk past shelters all the time and have no realization that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me hear.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to cut you off, but I appreciate the comments. Who's next?
Next up, we have Melinda Greenblatt.
Hi, I'd like to follow up on what Jane said and what
Hi, Melinda.
what the earlier gentleman from East 93rd said. I live on East 93rd also, near First Avenue, and I will tell you that I go past the facility that has been spoken about, the Welcome Center on East 91st Street. I go past there on the bus, I go past there walking, and I have never seen people outside. I did not even know that there was such a facility in my neighborhood. I meant to come on tonight and talk about the NIMBYism that I have observed in my own life when my father was the community board chair in South Brooklyn in Community Board 13 many years ago when they wanted to build neighborhood housing for developmentally delayed individuals. And he wanted to bring this proposal forward, and the community was really against it. And he was, horrified by this because of our personal contacts with people who needed this kind of housing. So that's what I was really going to talk about. But now that I realize there is such a facility in my neighborhood, very close to me, and I have never really seen a problem. I have seen homeless people on the streets in my neighborhood, and that is dismaying. But I would like to see this shelter and other shelters throughout the neighborhood and throughout the city to make sure that people are off the streets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the comment. Next.
Okay, next up we have either Jessica Kornfeld or Jessica Mancuso, but Jessica with no first name, go ahead.
Hi, I live on 70th between First and York. I'm a social worker. I've lived in this neighborhood for over a decade, and I work in this neighborhood as well. And my son attends public school here. Part of my job sometimes is helping people enter the shelter, which is often for reasons beyond their control. I've seen many move through the shelter within weeks to get a housing voucher and gain the stability that they need to continue to work and contribute to our community. The people who are entering the shelters are our neighbors. I often see seniors who are priced out because of their fixed incomes or women escaping domestic violence. It's unfair to hear here so many assume that women who are entering shelter are such degenerates that they can't be trusted to live across the street from a dispensary. One of the things that makes New York special is that we have a legal right to shelter, which guarantees a place indoors rather than living on the street. And cities without this protection see homelessness far more visible and chaotic. I understand the instinct to protect what feels stable in our neighborhood, but safety isn't achieved by pushing vulnerable people elsewhere. As someone mentioned before, the unfortunate folks who are under the 59th Street Bridge, I think it's achieved by giving them the support and a place to go, especially near our hospitals on the Upper East Side, the Lenox Hill Neighborhood House, the Carter Burden Network. We have much of the infrastructure to help these women in our neighborhoods already. I think that this is called a community board for a reason. And for me, it means we don't stop being a community when someone is struggling. So my question really is a concern actually about the capacity of the building and the pictures we saw of how many beds are in one room. I'm worried about how this building can adequately and safely house 200 women.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. That's actually my question too. I want to know how you arrived. I mean, it seems like a very large number of people, and the research that I've done about shelters is huge congregate 200-person shelters are not as effective as smaller dormitory spaces. Like, can it be made more humane in the sense of maybe 4 people to a room as opposed to 13 people to encourage people to come off the street? Can you speak to that? Why would you do this model as opposed to a model that's a little bit more humane in that sense? Why don't we have smaller rooms?
Sorry. So, as mentioned earlier, right, a provider will come and respond to an RFP. HSNY responded to the RFP to, present with or operate a 200-bed facility. It's not uncommon throughout our system that we have these congregate settings.
Why is that the preferred model?
There's no preferred model. We have shelters of various sizes, right? But this is just the RFP that they responded to operate.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't comment on the model and say we prefer you to have 6 rooms of 5.
Right. I mean, it all depends on the layout of the building and, how the building's configured. That usually dictates the dorm sizes and how many beds are in it. In this case, because there are larger dorms, there will be more beds.
But is there any way to make them smaller?
As it stands right now, no. But again, there's shelters of all sizes throughout our system.
Okay, because I mean, I've had a lot of homeless advocates reach out to us and discuss that they don't believe that the congregate model is the right model. If the idea is to get the 200 people off the street, then the congregate model is not the most effective model. So we were wondering whether there would be a willingness to explore a better model that might encourage people to come off the street.
So, I mean, I think it's definitely something that can be looked into. Again, all of the RFPs that are out for shelter operations, it's for different sizes, right? But again, it all depends on the building layout. So usually if a building has smaller rooms, it's less beds. So the building shape and layout dictates the dorm size.
Okay, all right. Okay, next.
I can call another batch, or do you want to do board members?
Let's do one more batch, and then we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to do one more batch of Zoom, and then we're going to go to some of our board members for a little while, and then we'll switch back, okay?
All right. And to my Zoom folks who have your hands raised, please, if you registered, make sure the name on your Zoom matches the name on your registration. Otherwise, I will have to lower your hand. I'm sorry about that. In the next batch, we have John Fischetti, Sarah DeWad, Eward, or perhaps Edward Blank, Michael Lieberman, Deborah Forrest, David Albert, Maria Hendrickson, and Erwin Silverstein. That is the next batch. So Sarah, you're going to be next. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. the presentation has actually been really helpful. I live on the corner of 62nd and York as well. As a parent, I think it's normal for us to be concerned. You talked about wanting to have minimal impact to the community, which is a sentiment that I absolutely approve and support. What does that look like as HSNY? What does this minimal impact in the other communities and shelters that you've had look like? I appreciate, I think it was Melinda who said that she lives near one and she hasn't even noticed it. This really puts me at ease. And secondly, upon intake, do you guys work with whoever you're intaking to make sure that the desire to secure housing, to meet goals is aligned with what you're doing? Because I really do believe like women need housing. I appreciate the change that Julie Menon's office made from a men's to women's shelter as a mother with really young children. It makes me at ease when I'm walking around the community as well.
In regards to your first question, one of the things that we did at the other location is that we ensured that I have almost daily communication with persons who are in walking distance of the facility. I do plan to do the exact same line of communication with this same community. So in those walking distance, we've already done a tour of the businesses. We've started the engagement between the businesses that are directly in walking, like a block or so, a mile radius of the building. And again, we want to make sure that we practice being a good neighbor. HSNY is dedicated to ensure that everybody feels safe in partnership with everybody, like the police stations and things of that nature. And so the way it's been working at the other location is by improving communication, it helps us respond to things in real time. And so, when we first opened, they would send pictures or they would email me or they would just voice their concerns. And because I was able to communicate in real time, it's been able to help that site grow. And that will implement the same thing at First Avenue. Can't remember your second question.
What is considered minimal impact, which is the first one that I stated. Oh, and the client willingness to align those like desires. You said that you want to rehabilitate those wraparound services.
Yeah.
100% support that. Do you guys help make sure that these individuals are aligned upon intake with that desire to receive those wraparound services so that they are good neighbors and can really meet the goals that they came in wanting to address?
So when they first come in through an intake process, within that intake process, they complete something called an individual living plan. In that individual living plan, we start to outline what their goals are to exit shelter. So we begin the conversation at intake, and then they meet with case management bi-weekly. So it is a very consistent process. If they pass the 6-month mark here at HSNY, they then go into a weekly engagement with their case manager to try to promote success and placement in housing. And also one of the things that HSNY is good with single housing or single adult housing is we make placements or exceed our placements to ensure that people can enter back in the community.
Thank you so much.
All right, John Fischetti, you are next on Zoom.
Oh. Hi, sorry about that. I'm finally unmuted. Thanks so much for having this meeting. That's really been helpful. One thing I just want to bring up is just a real life example. During COVID, when the Bentley Hotel was a homeless shelter, our building is directly across the street at 500 East 63rd Street. We had to get 24-hour security around our building and to protect our garage because of the garage doors opening and cars driving in. The loitering outside was and around our building was pretty significant, to the point where walking the dog around the block, people would walk away from the building and hang around in the vicinity. And I feel that the security company being charged with only dealing with the building itself and not the outside perimeter or other surrounding blocks, it could be an issue. And we've lived that issue. In fact, our garage door, we're sitting in the car taking our kids to school, garage door opens up, cars are parked in front of our garage door because it was the only place to park on the street, and there are drug deals going down right in front of us as I'm taking kids to school. So it's not ideal, and I feel that the security being charged with only the building itself is a concern, and that they should be patrolling at least a 2 or 3 block perimeter to consider people from loitering outside and away from the building. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the comments. Go ahead. Okay. All right, so now we're going to have to move from Zoom. We do have a cutoff in the room until 10 o'clock. So if we don't get to you, please send us, we'll give you an email and you can send us your comment. We're not attempting to cut anybody off. I don't know if there's anybody else in the room that was going to sign up. Give me 10, let's hear from some board members, and then the rest of the members in the room who are here that signed up will.
May I speak briefly to the comment system?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Just so that everyone has a chance to get written comments in, and we publish these, they become part of the public record. So I hope that if you didn't get to speak today, you'll take advantage of this opportunity to provide comments in writing. You can do that at cb8m.com, like Community Board 8 Manhattan, and click on the link to today's meeting on the calendar, and you'll see a link there to submit your written comments. So we certainly look forward to hearing from you that way as well. Thank you.
Can you just get the microphone up there and bring it down?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to start with board members. Ian, when you go up there, make sure you get Wilma first up there. And when we're down here, we're going to go to the co-chair of the Social Services Committee. Barbara, you want to come up here because the other microphone doesn't work, and then we'll go. Comment or question?
I'm Barbara Rutter, and I've been co-chair. I've been on the community board for about 17 years and co-chair of the Health Seniors for a good portion of the 17 years. I've heard a lot. I truly understand people's fears and concerns and so on. But I have to say, as somebody that's been around for a long time, we dealt with a Women in Needs project for families, the one on 91st Street. We were a little bit involved with what happened at the Bentley Hotel. I live on 87th and 2nd, and when I want a good bagel, I go to Tal on 86th, and between 2nd and 1st, and past. When I first moved in, I thought it was a boutique hotel, and it turned out to be a Doe fund where there's housing for men that recently got out of prison and were given jobs. And I have to tell you, I understand the concern, but I take it very seriously. I really do my work, and I follow up, and I question. And I have to say, for the most part, nothing in life is perfect, but things are okay. I had the privilege of getting a tour of the building on 91st Street with the same agency. It was beautiful and well done. And I've talked to a lot of people about this agency, and I hear only very good things about them. I also talk, and this is anecdotal, but I talk to a lot of people that live. My co-chair, Wilma, that unfortunately is still in back, lives near there. She's talked to a lot of people in the neighborhood, and they don't even know that it exists around there. I'm not saying there isn't somebody that had some interchange, but the homeless population is just out of control. And by not having a shelter will not mean that there won't be homeless. They will be there. They'll be using our streets as toilets. They will be begging for food. They will be around. And you know, yes, there is the humanity part, but even the practical part. I urge people to stop and think and work with the community to make this work, because I think we all need it.
Wilma, do you have your microphone? Go ahead.
Yes, I do.
Try speaking. It's working. Perfect.
My name is Wilma, and I co-chair with Barbara. I've been on the community board for practically 17 years, like Barbara. And I went in that tour on 91st Street, and a lot of people are concerned about a lot of things that people here are concerned about. But I just think that you have to see how it works out, and you have all the numbers to call if you have problems. And these people really need a place. And I'm glad that it's a women's shelter, because I feel that women's shelters are more needed than men's shelters.
Okay, thank you. All right. First, let's go to Judy. Go ahead, Judy. Okay.
Does that mean that there will always be 200 women in the shelter?
Okay, I'm just going to repeat for the people on Zoom, because Judy's question is just because the capacity is 200, does that mean there will always be 200 women in the shelter?
No, that is not a guarantee. We can be at capacity, but we also can be at half capacity. We can be underutilized, so it's not a guarantee that it'll always be 200 women.
Okay, why don't you come up, Kim, because, oh, all right. Okay. Ian was supposed to bring it back down. And you just wait 1 second. What?
Wilma has one more thing to say,
Okay.
right? Go for it.
Go ahead.
You said that there's 8 floors that you have on that shelter on 61st Street, and you only have 3 dormitories?
5. We have 3 dormitories per floor, 5 floors, sorry.
Or 5 floors? So the other 2 floors are?
So the first floor is the lobby when you first walk in off the street. That is the first level of access control. Then the second floor is where all the staff will be located. It's also the second point of access control. Then the 3rd to the 7th floor is dormitories, 3 dorms per floor. The 8th floor is the cafeteria where they eat.
So there's 13 people dormitories on each floor?
Yes.
Hurry up and run, Ian. Okay, Elizabeth, why don't you come up here, and then Todd, you're next.
Who was next, sorry?
Todd's after Elizabeth.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, all members of the public who have come and who have stayed to this point. I have a couple of questions largely for DHS based on the comments that I've heard from the public this evening. Clearly, the concerns are focused around safety, and they are focused around safety of local residents, particularly given the proximity to schools, although I will acknowledge there is no place in our community board that is not proximate to schools. So safety, especially with the proximity to schools, and concerns about local congestion. These are real concerns. So my questions for DHS: what data can you provide about existing shelter locations and other temporary housing support locations within Community Board 8 that can help address these community concerns? What can you share with us about incident rates at the Bentley Hotel, at the Park Avenue Armory, at the HSNY site on East 91st Street, and thank you for mentioning it, Barbara, at the Doe Fund location that you mentioned, and any other location in Community Board 8 that represents temporary housing support. You must have data. The data must exist, whether it's within you, or I appreciate the 19th precinct being here and represented. The data must exist. So what can you share to help these residents who have come out this evening to express their concerns be less concerned? And while and as well as what data can you share to help dispel some of the stereotypes that we have heard this evening about shelter populations? Because I think we have heard a lot of stereotypes that are not based on real data. This is all information that, if you can be very transparent and forthcoming, might genuinely help the community become more supportive, and would genuinely help the 19th precinct to be proactive. And, frankly, I am sure that this is the kind of thing that you experience with every single community in New York City, not just here. Every community deserves this kind of informed, supportive approach to bringing this into our community. So that is my primary question. And then a secondary question that I'm asking on behalf of a board member who had to leave is for HSNY. Can you please explain some of the other operational aspects of operating a shelter and how they will be accomplished? Who cleans? who changes beds, who cleans bathrooms, who's providing food. All of these things, bring to question just the operations of a shelter in this community. Thank you very much.
So Dee just want to answer first. Okay, in regards to the rest of the operations, we have residential aid staff that supports program staff. We have maintenance, a super maintenance. Let me go from the top. We have an operations manager, a super, porters and maintenance staff that are on site that do all of the cleaning. In regards to the laundry, we will assist them with securing laundry and escorting them to do their laundry. She said cleaning, she said.
And also for food, as indicated.
Oh, there we go.
We have our food caterer, our food service provider, who will deliver 3 meals a day to the food area, which on the 8th floor, and our staff will help serve that food to each client every single day per meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and of course snacks. So we have an outside provider who comes in with the food, we serve the food, and as Dr. Rivera said, we have a full-time staff of maintenance workers, porters, and supers to actually maintain the building and take care of the things that go on in the building.
You want to answer it? Answer it. Go ahead.
They do not have the data right here, right now, but they have promised that they're going to get it to us. So we will send them an email with all of the information we've been requesting. I think it's, it's the right question. I'm not sure that they actually are going to have the data the way we need it, but we'll see what we can get because we have been asking for it and we've been getting it in various ways. So go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks. I'm exhausted. And some of the things have already been said, but I think this was just unfortunately not a really well-run meeting, and that just sucks because this is such an important issue and it could have been handled so much better. It didn't have to become this time of night. I don't even know what time it is, but they had so much time to prepare their presentation and everything. And we as a community had 3 weeks to basically be thrown this information. And I know that it was when you found out, but this was been in the works on and off and on and off. So it's quite disappointing. Lazaro and I were talking for a moment, Deputy Lazaro and Lazarus, and I'm tired, I told you. I live on 68th and 3rd, right around the corner from the police station, and we have Target, Lululemon, and we used to have Nike. We have police officer cars there all the time. Even with the presence, just the amount of theft that goes on there, it just is amazing to me. And this is a mile away. I don't know how you're going to be able to really help that area. I'm surprised by the way that the no drugs and alcohol and being across the street from the cannabis shop. I've heard from probably hundreds of people that I've been CC'd on emails and calls. And I know that you said that there's quite a bit of people online that have been supporting this. I've heard 2 today. I really haven't heard many. I know that we've lost 3 shops right on the block, Baker Street, the Indian restaurant, and Ritz. I can't imagine anybody in their right mind taking a lease in that area. And there's neighbors that live in the property right across the street above Home Depot. They rely on the small businesses. So if we lose more small businesses, we lose the community that we built. And I was born on the Upper East Side on 68th, and I live in the same building where I was raised. I understand the fair share provision, but this property holding 200 people, whether it was men or women, is just not right. The property does not lend itself to that. I saw your presentation, and all I could see is problems from what you presented. A rooftop where they're supposed to not be loitering, but they could smoke, makes no sense. If you look at the numbers, 35 operating homeless shelters and 3,500 people, the numbers don't add up to 200 beds in a size like this. This is wrong in so many ways, and we all understand a crisis that we're facing with the unhoused. That is obvious, and we get it. We're a small district, the East 60s, and we can't really support this type of shelter in this neighborhood. It's just not one that really makes sense for our location. And there seems to be a lot of questions about the permits and what's been going on. And I propose a pause and a absolute pause on this and hold until the community actually is heard. Harry Gale, who has received tons and tons of emails, I had conversations with, and I've shared my feelings that he needs to speak to the speaker, and we need to have a pause, and we need to have advocacy, because what I was told is this is a unilateral decision. I was told it's happening. And if it's happening and we have no community engagement, I don't know what you guys were talking about, because it's been zero. This is the first meeting, and it's supposed to open in less than, what, a month? So I encourage what you said to me was that the council has the ability to advocate, and that's what we do. And I'm speaking on behalf personally, not as a board member. And I think we need to hear from the community, put an immediate pause on this, really look into it, find out what and how it's going to be affecting the neighborhood. And all the things you brought up can be challenged in every little moment of what you were saying. But there's no point in me doing that now, because I think it's already been done. And when somebody just said, Elizabeth, bringing up data, the fact that there's no data and you come here to present and you don't have data and you don't know that somebody was, a baby was killed in a homeless shelter in Queens, that's just not being, I understand, and it happened in a shelter. This is not a back and forth, Sherry. So those kind of things, you come and you know what you're talking about if you're doing a presentation. And I bet that if we all as community members had the time to educate ourselves and to actually learn more in advance, we would come prepared. But we're all just facing this like a brick wall hit us. And it's unfair to the community, and I really hope that this community gets to speak up. Thank you.
Okay.
It's supposed to go like this.
Okay, Todd. Sherry, go ahead.
I don't know if everybody heard me, but I did want to clarify that this 2-year-old baby was killed by its father. It wasn't a random child, somebody coming out of the homeless shelter.
Okay.
I was very impressed with the presentation. I think this is a system that works. I was also impressed to hear that many of these women are working, and I certainly would prefer to have them in a homeless shelter and not living in their cars, which they may have with their children. And I think just, we're a privileged community here, and I think we have to look out for those who are not as privileged. And it could just happen. Your landlord raises your rent and you can't afford it, and you need a temporary place to live. So I certainly support the placement of a women's shelter in our neighborhood.
Thank you, Sherry. Anybody else? Kim? And then we'll go to you, Miles. And then we're going to go back to the community one more time. Okay.
Hi, I have a quick comment and then a question for, I believe, our partners at DHS. Maybe I need to speak in a little bit. This is better for everyone?
That's much better.
Or I just have to go immediately in front of my mouth. Very awkward. Okay. My first comment is that I have been 16-year resident in the city of New York, but 14 of those years in the same building on 92nd Street, very close to the other establishment that's been mentioned a few times. I have not experienced any change to my physical safety walking around that neighborhood, so I'd just like to be another voice expressing support for establishments like this. My question for our friends at, I believe at DHS, goes back to this, the topic of the initial 5-year lease with a potential 4-year renewal. Can DHS explain a little bit more about how you have hold accountability or have metrics on how these facilities are operating so that you can understand if there is a reason to pull the plug or if a group or the tenants, for lack of a better term, are doing right by what they signed on to do at the city?
Okay, so I'll try to be brief. There's a
thank
lot.
you.
So, one, all providers that operate a shelter have placement goals, right? So we give them an annual target of placements to make a year.
You
So
have to really get close.
you
That's it.
guys all asked about length of stay, right? So how long before I enter the shelter am I going to be out? So every provider that has or that operates a shelter has placement goals that they have to meet yearly. It's broken down into quarters throughout the year. So far, HSNY is, they're great with that at their other sites. So we look at placements. We look at their case management and social services, what they're doing for the clients. Are they doing their case management meetings? Are clients going on housing interviews? Like all that stuff is taken into account on the client level. In terms of accountability and compliance, so they also receive a Vendex score. That is made up of the evaluation that's done on their overall operations, right? So like fiscal, programmatic, and then the other one is just like compliance, right? So are they responsive? Is all their paperwork filed yearly? Is everything up to date? So that's done once a year for every contract. Appendix.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and then it's also, the state comes out and does inspections, DOB comes out. So there's all these annual inspections that are happening at different times. We do a full-on, it's called an RSRI, so it's us, DOB, FDNY, they come out and they walk the building. So there are several checkpoints that we put in place to hold providers accountable. It can get to a point where if somebody is not performing, that is a conversation, right? So in looking at all of these reports and what comes back, we can meet with them to say, hey, look, this is not looking good. How can we work to fix it? If it gets to a point where it can't be fixed and that 5-year mark hit, then that's where that conversation will kind of happen. But they wouldn't be in the dark about not knowing how they're doing, if that makes sense.
You're not going to wait the 4 years to evaluate them.
No,
the process is like.
No, they're evaluated like yearly, but
Okay.
what I was saying is,
Right.
there's a check-in point if
Right.
things aren't going good.
Okay, sounds good. Is that yours?
Question, this is a women's shelter, do you make an effort to keep women, guards, security people? Are there women security, those that
So-
inspect camp and dorm?
Again, that's up to the security company, but anybody can be a security guard.
Do you make an effort to have women security guards in the women's shelter?
Yes, the security of the population is normally females. We might have maybe 1 or 2 males, but they would never be stationed in the dormitory area. They would be stationed mainly downstairs in the lobby for the metal detectors and upstairs on the roof.
Very good idea.
Yep.
We're going to go to board members on Zoom and then pass the mic back to Miles. Okay.
DJ, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, that came quickly. 1 second.
DJ,
We can't hear
we
you.
Can't hear you. It may be an issue with your audio input.
Now?
It's a little better. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Ballerinian, for running this meeting at worst in kind of trying circumstances. I do want to say that I support the shelter. I want to make a broader point about homelessness in the city. While any given individual may have their own circumstances in life that landed them on the street, zooming out on this as a macro issue, homelessness is a housing affordability problem, first and foremost. The social science is quite clear on this. So New York is on average an affluent city, but we also have higher rates of homelessness than much poorer parts of the country. And it really comes down to the cost of housing. There's a lot of consternation about the explosion of unhoused individuals on our streets, and I share it, especially since COVID. But we're seeing the effects of upstream causes that have caused housing costs to explode. It comes down to the city not building enough housing at all points of affordability. We're fighting each other over scraps, and this is true at lower income levels. On the margin, many that might be able to afford cheap housing are priced out of those units, and they end up couch surfing and eventually potentially in a shelter. For those of you who are coming to your first CB meeting, who are new to the meetings, one of the principal responsibilities of the community board is to opine on land use and zoning matters, including housing. So for everybody who is unhappy about the shelter in our neighborhood, I hope to see you at future community board meetings advocating for as much housing to be built as possible at all income levels in our community and throughout the city, because this doesn't just stay within the borders of the Upper East Side. So please come to future community board meetings, but keep these larger issues in mind because we are seeing the downstream impacts of much longer term issues. Thanks.
Thanks, DJ. Go ahead, Miles.
Hello?
Yeah.
I first want to thank both the city for coming and Valerie. This has been a very contentious and difficult night, I think, for all of us. And before I ask my questions, I want to say a statistic that I wish I was able to say at the start, which is that 90% of homeless women report that they have experienced sexual or domestic abuse. 40% report that the direct cause of their homelessness is due to domestic abuse and domestic violence. I think that's important context that I wish we could have all considered. But my questions, firstly, which was briefly touched on, is actually in regards to the timeline of how the clients are moving in. We said it was a couple of weeks, but what does that actually mean? What is the actual timeline on that? My second question is, due to the fact that you are only intaking clients that come through your spots in Brooklyn and the Bronx, what happens when and if there are walk-ins to this facility? Do you just send them to those distribution points, or how does that work?
I said, give me your first question one more time. I'm sorry.
Oh, what is the timeline for the move-in of the clients? It is very vaguely stated.
You mean from the point of the intake to?
From the point of when it opens to when it reaches occupancy.
So from the time they come in the door to us, you're saying?
No. How long will it take for it to actually reach?
So what DHS actually said, that there'd be a ramp up. It wouldn't be 200 people at one day. It'd be a ramp up period of time, also based upon specific need. So that's what DHS would say.
No, it can be on a rolling basis, right? So they're not going to dump 200 women the day we open. It might be 5 women that night. It depends on whatever the vacancy control has at that time. And so it'll just be on a rolling kind of basis. Your second question was in regards to? Here.
Oh, the second one is if and when there are potential walk-ins to this facility, how are you going to get them? Are you just going to send them to the sites in Brooklyn and the Bronx, or how will that work?
Yes, they have to go through the intake center in New York City. So if in the rare case that there is a walk-in, then we would assist them with getting to the nearest one to be properly intaked and then referred back to us, or referred to wherever there's an available bed.
Okay, who else? Where are we? Sam, is that you? I can't see. Sorry, Sam, you want to come up here? They're very slow with the microphones. Can you get that one? We're going to bring you one, because I don't want such a tall person standing next to me.
Hi, all. Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, for leading this meeting. It was difficult, but you did your best to lead it with grace. And thank you to all of our folks from the city and from the various organizations that have presented. Public service is not easy, it's not glamorous, and sometimes you get yelled at by strangers, but you should know that you all are appreciated. I want to talk about my very first foray into political activism when I was a child. Some of you may remember the proposed East Waste Transfer Station by Asphalt Green. Valerie's nodding her head, she knows what's up. At the time, I protested vociferously against it as a...
Oh, there it goes. Hold on, don't leave us hanging. We want all the details.
Alongside many of my neighbors here on the Upper East Side, we were concerned about increased traffic, increased pollution, traffic violence, overall, essentially a diminished quality of life. What happened, you might be wondering, is, well, the waste transfer station got built despite the community's protests, and the Upper East Side is still very much the Upper East Side. The community is still beautiful, the community is still safe, the community is still clean, and the community is, in my humble estimation, still the greatest on God's green earth. I say all this to say that whatever concerns people might have, and certainly I appreciate those concerns, we need to remember that the perceived worst case scenario very much is, it's not likely to happen, right? Furthermore, during this evening and during our robust discussion, I took the liberty of texting a few of my friends in the city council from various neighborhoods. Right now, we have 3, to my knowledge, homeless shelters within Community District 8, which largely overlaps for the most part with Council District 4 and Council Member 5, represented by Council Members Maloney and Menon, respectively. Or excuse me, I mixed that up. But for context, one council member told me they had 11 shelters in their district. Another one told me that they had 25. Another told me 30. Another told me 45. And another one told me 18. And here we are complaining about our third. Shame on us. We live in the greatest city in the world, do we not? I think we live in the greatest neighborhood in the greatest city in the world. Surely we have the capacity to open our arms just a bit wider and say, yes, to our homeless neighbors, you belong here, you deserve a spot, you deserve compassion. Anyways, I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Anybody else on the board want to say anything at this moment? Oh, yeah, she's not on the board. We're going to go to her. That's why I'm asking first. Anybody online?
Anyone on the board want to raise your hand?
I hope okay, go ahead. 1 second, we're going to finish. There are a couple more people in the room who want to talk. Yeah, okay. There and then there. Okay, go ahead. Please say your name and where you live.
Yasmina Kaleo Palumbo. I live down the block on 66th Street. I think it's very tantalizing to lecture people and say things like shame on you, shame on us. I do think that our community would be more supportive if we had more time to be supportive. I think communication lends itself to support, and we're just learning about this now. And the presentation, to me, is quite contradictory. On the one hand, it was heavily focused on security, almost like a Fort Knox and an othering, and how is that going to be integrating with the people? I don't quite understand how there's going to be a partnership if there is this massive divide and a high-density population that we don't even know is appropriate in that space. We don't know if it's the best model. I would hope that in the future that DHS would have another meeting with our community just to talk about the data, to talk about various models, to talk about how 200 women can be positively and successfully supported in that space. Fiscally, it seems to me like it's a lucrative contract. Is it really the best case scenario to get people from homeless to housed?
Okay. Thank you. Go over there.
Thank you. So my name is Joe Rigger. I live literally across the street, right? And, I think Todd said very well how I feel about this. But, the problem I have with this engagement is, you expect us to be receptive, but you're not being transparent. You're not walking the talk. And we need time to digest this plan and be able to react to it. And I think part of the problem with this is the density. It's not 200 people, it's 250 people on a daily basis that cycle through this building, that either are living there or working there. I don't see how this is feasible, right? And it just reeks of a for-profit intent to just, make profit from this, right? So how can you show up for us? Give us time to process this. And what can you do to maybe lower the density? Because you're coming here and talking to us, but there's actually nothing that you've done which is inviting us to opine on this plan and to actually for you to make changes or affect changes that are a little more reasonable, right? So walk the talk, please.
Well, to that end, you guys keep saying that it's not going to be 200 people on day one. And I think this was sort of raised by other people in terms of a timeline. Like, what do you see, there must be some projection as to the ramp up of residents in the shelter. So, do you see like 200 women there by the end of 2026? I'm assuming, like with anything else, you don't want to put 200 people in there immediately, but there must be some historical model or something about how you ramp up to a 200-person shelter. And I think that's what people are asking. Like, can you respond to that?
Sure, absolutely. Usually for new shelters, again, we try to be mindful to provide some level of a ramp-up period. I think for this site, I would anticipate probably 2 to 3 months of ramp-up before it is fully occupied. The part of the analysis to bring a site like this online anywhere in the city involves review of our shelter capacity and what the needs are. And the needs are showing that we need additional beds for single adult women. And so as much as we want to work with the community to make sure that we are not inundating the community at an unrealistic pace, we do have a legal and moral mandate to house people that need shelter. And so, yes, it will certainly be before the end of the year. But I would say probably like 2 to 3 months before we're fully up and running at capacity.
Do we have any ability to affect change in this? Or is it just the data complete? Because this is what the frustrating part is, right? It's like, what control do we have? You're not giving us any control, yet you're expecting us to be good neighbors, right? So this is the frustration.
Can't hear what he's saying.
He's saying that he's questioning what ability we have to actually influence the process. I mean, to your point, there was never a request. I mean, this was a notification process, okay? This was not like we're going to, this is not a ULURP. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but, this is not a land use question where we, have a formal 6-month process, et cetera, et cetera. It's not like that. What? Yeah, I mean, I would just say this. This is a city agency. This is under the auspices of the mayor. It's the Department of Homeless Services. And a lot of the comments that we heard tonight are not really specific to this shelter. You're questioning the opening of shelters everywhere in the city of New York and what the process is. I think this happens all the time, that nobody really focuses on this until the shelter is about to open on their block or their neighborhood. And that's just the way we are in New York, because we are so busy and everybody's focused on getting to their place of business, et cetera, every day. And so you don't really think about these things, in a more, let's say, citywide aspect. But I hear what you're saying. So if you're concerned about the process, and I hear you, that's a letter to the head of the. Do you have a commissioner yet of homeless services? So we're running out of time. I apologize. Wilma up there. What?
Because of the input that was given.
Yeah, I mean.
Does that mean we're not going to have a shelter? No. But I think that there's an increase. I know at the other shelter, there was an increase in times of security because of security.
Right, and I want you to put a little bit of faith in the process about the Community Advisory Board. That's going to be and the Speaker's office we're going to work with DHS, and we're going to have stakeholders, East 70, East 60s Neighborhood Association, some of the buildings that are close by, some of the schools that are involved, the community board. We're all in this together. I mean, we're doing it right now on 91st Street. As I said, it's a continuing process. It's not going to be perfect. And as, Deputy Inspector Lazarus said, she can't respond to anything. She's going to treat this, she's going to have omnipresence in the district as she has for every other thing that's happening in the 19th precinct. But I think we just have to, the process isn't perfect. Do I think it, is perfect? No. Do I think that this is perhaps the right way to do it? But here's the thing. This is what we're presented with. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And everyone understands the needs. Whether the homeless people are in the shelter, they're living up here on the Upper East Side. You see them everywhere. We're just trying to, from my own personal point of view, I think this model is terrible. I don't think anybody wants to come off the street and live with 13 strangers in a room. I don't really know how successful the model is. If I had my druthers, it would be a different kind of shelter. It would be a shelter of women and children. The Upper East Side has the best schools in the city, and we can offer children and parents some of the best education. If I were doing this, it would be a women and family shelter, because that's the best that this district can offer. And we weren't presented with that. So I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go. I'm sorry, Wilma, I can't let you speak. We're gonna have to go, otherwise it's gonna cost us more money than the community board has. I just wanna thank everybody for coming tonight. Please continue to send your comments to the mayor, the Department of Homeless Services, to the community board, and we'll continue to discuss this. Okay, everybody? I know it didn't start off that great, but people were a little hot-tempered and not willing to understand how the process works. That happens all the time. But thank you for your patience and your participation. Good evening, and be careful out there.